You're listening to the Cube Cast.
Welcome to the Sage Cubecast. We're here with Marc Selby. He's in St. Lazare. A quick little intro to Marc Selby. What can you say about Marc? Everyone knows him. That's your intro.
Yeah.
A legend. We got him on the show.
Yeah.
So tune in, everyone, because this is it's gonna be a part 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because there's not enough time to talk with Marc.
Yeah, no, I think you'll be a recurring guest here, Marc.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Awesome.
We haven't even finished filming this, and
I talk a lot, so
a recurring guest. Well, I guess we'll just get right into this, and I mean, do you want to give us like kind of your parkour career, your history, and like basically in a nutshell here?
Well, as a kid, I didn't feel like there was any other options. Because there was zero possibility at competing at being normal. Because everyone else was going to beat me at that. So if I competed at being different, I had a chance. I don't know. I was always that different kid who was climbing and jumping and stuff. So finding a way to pursue that as a career seemed to be the really obvious thing to do, especially considering parkour was so young and it had so many opportunities. So that's what I did.
I mean, I know a lot of this information myself, obviously, but
why would you know that?
How old were you when you actually started? And what did you do before you called it parkour?
Street stunts.
That's right.
Well, because I had seen clips and whatever of people doing parkour. I guess in hindsight it would have been Yamakaze and stuff. And I remember the first memories I have of parkour was actually mine and Tom's older brother Ken talking about guys jumping between buildings. He was like, "Yeah, there's these French guys who jump between buildings." And we were like driving downtown. I guess Dad was driving, and I think we were in the Cavalier, and we were in downtown Winnipeg, leaving St. Boniface. And Ken was talking about French guys jumping between buildings.
Huh.
And I remember like I didn't know the word parkour, but in my head I was like, oh, okay, that is an option. I can jump between buildings. So that was, even though parkour wasn't really a thing yet, in 2003, I was already like climbing on everything and jumping off everything and treating it as something that's actually like a practicable, art form or whatever.
Yeah. I always remember like you would go out, climbing stuff, and then eventually it was like, oh yeah, it's actually called parkour.
Actually,
like,
what's funny?
That actually has a name?
Some kids at St. Vital Skateboard Park told me what it was called.
No way.
Really?
I was out doing it, and they were like, oh, actually, what's funny? I think, I don't know if they used the word parkour or if they used the word free running, but it wouldn't make sense that they used the word free running because I don't think that word came out till 2004.
No. Or
but
2005.
They said, are you doing parkour or whatever? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm doing this stuff. But yeah.
Just doing handstands on soccer posts, and
it was literally just a handstand and cat pass through your hands off everything you could find.
One of my favorite moves to this day.
The best one.
Yeah.
The best one.
Well, that's an intro for me to you to parkour. When I was at the old Winnipeg Gymnastics Club, and I think it was still Tuesday nights there, and I went to go to this gym to do handstands. I think I went like 4 weeks just doing handstands, like nothing else, not progressing, just doing handstands. And I think
that's awesome.
Well, and then you came back from like Lisbon. Is that right? Where did you?
Yeah, probably from Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I see you do this stunt, and I'm like, I want to do that. I was like, how does handstands transfer to that? And
it's hilarious.
Here it is, and it's just been an awesome ride since. But like, to even know like finding a gold mine for me in a little gymnastics gym.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really intimidating. But getting over those little growth spurts is just, there's nothing that empowers you more than that.
Yeah,
you don't
for sure.
you don't need a team. Like, you need people
No.
to encourage you, but you just need
Yeah.
this and your toes, and to make that body in
It's funny
between
you
work.
say that you don't need a team, because I feel like anytime we ever did start a team, it was to try and appeal to the mainstream and try and appeal to people who didn't really understand what it was that we were doing, and make it more marketable. But for us, we always knew what we were doing. We were out having fun, hitting these streets. People didn't really get that. So
No,
that's
I
almost
agree.
something I think we could have maybe learned more from skate culture early on, but I don't know. We paved our own way.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, I guess when you're starting street stunts, I mean, kind of talked about about this, but what
Tom,
what
it's
part
so
of it?
early in my life. Like, literally, that's more than half of my life ago, like way more than half of my life ago. So, like, remembering an accurate depiction of how I started parkour is really like, I'm almost like, it's a game of telephone I've been playing with myself since I was a kid. So I don't really know the history. I just know like approximate dates.
What do you think about like parkour was though, or yeah, what about parkour do you think it was that drew you in to it? Like, was it just the fact that it wasn't a team activity, or did you always just, I mean, kind of want to be like a ninja?
Well, I don't know if you like. I'm sure you remember, Tom, when I was a kid. Like, like I'd practice breakdancing with Quentin Saka, and me and Ricky would skateboard all the time, and me and Quentin would skateboard all the time. And it was always pursuing those individual kind of sports.
Yeah.
And then when I would be on a team sport, it like just wouldn't work out. It was never really my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So I think like any of those could have ended up being my thing. But I think the reason parkour stuck as my thing, and even now people will go, oh, which one do you prefer, snowboarding, rock climbing, parkour? The reason parkour is my foundational thing is because it's like more of an idea, and it's the center, it's the logic, it's the buildup for everything else that I do. It's the center of everything that I do. So I couldn't really ever love anything as much as I love parkour, but I really do enjoy snowboarding. I do enjoy rock climbing. But yeah, parkour is the center of everything I do. So when I was a little kid, it's not like I got into parkour. I found out what it was called, like that's kind of how it felt. I was always learning how to climb, always learning how to kick, and I wanted to use my body to be able to do absolutely anything. So parkour was just like, oh, look at this. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess that especially before, I mean, when we started, like the philosophy of it all was drilled into you a little bit more.
Yeah.
Be in that mindset, and so it's just easy to carry over, hey, into like all aspects.
Can you read that out for people that are listening, Mark?
It says être fort pour être utile, being strong for being useful. That's like
some parkour history right there.
Yeah,
I use that in my life when I'm at my day job and I don't think I can do a particular thing. Deep down in my thoughts, it's like, be strong to be useful. It's like,
yeah,
you can do this, Christy. You know what I mean? You do parkour, you can do this. Like,
yeah.
so I use it every day.
It's cool. Like, I like that you and Tom and everyone I train with, we're all kind of really good generalists where we're kind of good at everything. I know a lot of people who are specialists in one area, and it's like they are a parkour master. They just don't realize how to apply it to everything else. They're a parkour master of one thing. It's like parkour gave me the ultimate system for understanding how to develop skills and how to acquire new skills. If you look at everything as a parkour athlete, you can really get some crazy skill acquisition. So just looking at clips of myself snowboarding 3 months ago and then clips of me snowboarding now, it's not fair. It's like I'm 3 years better at least in 3 months. Like if you had to give it a time, it's not fair how good I'm getting this fast. I love it.
Yeah, it's just the attention that you put on it, right? Like,
yeah, man.
Especially where you are. Like, let's talk about van life. Like, okay, Mark is in St. Lazare, Manitoba, between the Manitoba border and the Saskatchewan border, and just living there since maybe March? No.
It hasn't been a year yet, right?
Yeah, it's almost.
No, not quite. I actually, this time last year, I was in Sherwood Forest, developing still. So I went out to the bush and I was rock climbing, and I did a little bit of snowboarding out there, like maybe 2 sessions, but it just really wasn't working out with the weather that we had last year. So yeah.
Yeah, so Mark's up in St. Lazare. He's snowboarding down his own property there, and he has a what type of camper? How long
I
is
still
it?
have an RV. I have a 30-foot RV from 1985 that I rebuilt and restored.
And a bunch of scaffolding and holds, and it just looks like your adult amusement park. Overnight like lodging. It's really awesome. It's super cool. So if anyone watching can see that Mark has a Jungle Jam t-shirt. Here's my Jungle Jam t-shirt. I'm gonna put it on right now. But this was a thing that Mark threw down last year. Tell us about it, Mark.
Yeah, so, well, like I said, last year I was in Sherwood Forest and putting up more rock climbs. That's something that I like to do as well, is developing rock climbing. So we're out there putting up some climbing, and then, yeah, we wanted to do a parkour festival. COVID was kind of just kicking off and going kind of crazy. So we went out to St. Lazare here, and we made a limit of 50 people just because of COVID. And we had 50 people out, people from Lazare, people from Saskatoon, old parkour guys from there, parkour guys from Winnipeg. It was a really good time. Christy was out. You had a great time, right?
It was so fun.
Fuck yeah.
So fun. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I should swear on this podcast.
Oh, you
Sorry.
can.
Yeah, that's fine.
I pushed
Okay,
myself
cool.
at Jungle
Okay,
Jam
cool.
too. It was really neat. The local kids came over late at night yet, jumping down from I don't know how many feet of scaff into a foam pit,
Yeah.
and going back up and jumping back down, going back up.
And they continued that for another 2 months after that, by the way.
Like it was like what you can bring to the community is just amazing. It's just I feel that parkour needs a boom, you know, like how skateboarding got its boom, how like other sports got their boom. I think that people are just scared, or companies are just scared of the liability factor. But if it's just like taking slap shots too, like someone's gonna stand in net like with a 100-mile-an-hour puck.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't want to do that. But like, I'll try to do this huge roof grab. That'd be cool.
Well, I think it comes down to society's values, right? Like if people were all of a sudden dropping like flies in hockey, I think Canada would still go, no, we still got to play. You know, we got to put those pucks in the net, and we got to raise that stick, and we got to get across the ice and not go overside and all that. Like they would really care about it, eh? And their cup would still really matter, and their medals would matter. But because they don't value parkour, they won't make any risks over that for sure. It's always going to be a personal risk.
We just got to do parkour with hockey equipment on.
Yeah,
there we go.
Just be geared up.
Crossing sports, man. That's how you invent ideas.
Use a
New
stick
ideas.
to help us.
Oh no, I don't know what that would look like.
So with Jungle Jam, what do you see for the future of it?
So right now I'm trying to slowly transition it into a snowboarding festival. Just kidding.
Good one.
No,
Just missed the season.
You're hilarious.
So my goal with Jungle Jam is basically to just we have this format where it can keep growing and growing and growing. So we have ideas this year. Are we gonna go in with a huge rental budget? We might try and get some grants and do a huge rental budget for scaffolding. But the other idea is instead of renting every year, just to keep buying more and more and more and just adding to our pile as we go on. I also want to building concrete forms and little mini concrete patches on our property in different spots that have cemented in scaffolding bays. So that way they're like our solid foundation to build off of. And then you can kind of build the parks into each other. So like the goal is to have like a wood park, have a concrete park, have a bar park, and then eventually kind of every Jungle Jam will connect it all with scaffold, and it's one big parkour festival. People can come from all over, and I guess the appeal to it and the thing that makes us unique is that we're going to have these courses and runs that go for so long you can't possibly match it anywhere with architecture. So lines that zigzag back and forth across our property where you could literally go until your hands rip and then keep going. I don't know. I'm a trail builder. I like to build long trails between rock climbs. I like to build trails to snowboard on. And for me, like building long parkour sequences, that's kind of the future that I'm heading down for Jungle Jam. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess even if you add just a little bit, like a tiny little bit each year, even after a few years, right?
yeah, that's the thing. So if I rent, then I can have exponential growth where I can show people right away like what we're really capable of. So that's very tempting for me where I'm like, I don't really want to wait. I'd rather show the world what it looks like when you have $100,000 worth of scaffolding in one place. I kind of want to show people what that looks like because I can see it in my head already. So I kind of want to build it. But at the same time, I'm like, if I don't spend all that money on renting scaffold and I just slowly buy it, we can have like a more long-term epic thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think kind of a gray area would be good where we do buy a little bit each year, but we also rent as well. Cause I really want to show people what we can do, what we're capable of. I see a lot of amazing bar guys in the world, especially Germans and stuff where I'm like, oh, if you guys came to my festival, you'd have so much fun. They just don't know it's a thing. And I'm like, I have to build it, make 1 or 2 viral clips with really good athletes. And then like, okay, this is what we have. So.
That sounds exciting.
You'll just like get some
really
like corporate sponsors at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be right cat back to the podcast, but first I gotta tell you about a massage I had at Healing Wellness. I went in for a 90-minute massage with a splash of Reiki at Healing Wellness, and after that, I felt lighter than air. Healing Wellness is located at 677 Suite E, Stafford and Pembina. Phone number is 204-292-5021. Your second treatment is 15% off if you mention the Sage Cubecast. But get this, your first treatment for new clients is 40% off. So check it out. I did. I can't tell you enough about it. All right, let's dive roll back into the podcast.
Just that had the technical difficulty there, so
It was a cut.
Mark changed locations.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hi guys. I'm in my car now. Some people showed up and they wanted to do laundry, and I'm like, sure.
Yeah, you still get that Wi-Fi, right?
Ah, there she is. How old is she?
She's 6.
Nice. Good looking
She's
dog.
64 pounds.
What was that?
She's 64 pounds.
Oh, well.
No cataracts, good ears, healthy. Yesterday she took her heartworm medication.
That's what you gotta do as an owner. Yeah.
Yeah.
In good shape.
All right, let's talk about some history. I don't know where to start with this, but I have a couple things I know about you. Tell us about Saskatoon Team Modus.
Oh.
Kind of forget that existed.
I'll let you jump in on this one, Tom. Just kidding. Yeah, I don't know. Me and Tom had to move to Saskatoon, and we were like, really? Saskatoon?
Yeah.
Like, both really into parkour, and we didn't know what to expect. But it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I think it really changed our styles, made us better at like the flippy, jumpy, tricky stuff. So we did a lot of that, and it also introduced us to some great people. That's a city where they really have a lot of drive to make things happen. So we met Neil and Aaron, and they were great. Neil Greening and Aaron Erickson. And Neil's a great graphic designer. He made us logos and all this stuff right off the hop. And Aaron's super motivated about getting good programming, and he was a martial artist. So me and Tom got along really well with him.
Yeah. I guess
and
you could say,
they had gym. So we were
they owned Modus Gym, which is they wanted us to teach at. So that's kind of where Modus.
It's like, you guys should do Modus Parkour, and we're like, yes.
Yeah.
So we did. So yeah, I was like, we kind of Modus Parkour was piggybacking off of Modus martial arts, specifically Krav Maga and like Commando Krav Maga and yoga. They did yoga and Commando Krav Maga, two odd things, but if you kind of look at Commando Krav Maga, it's a very parkour of the martial arts world kind of thing. I think it's very efficient, and it's very smart, and it's military, and it's kind of got that parkour-esque aspect. And then yoga obviously being a really movement-based sport, or whatever you want to call it. yeah, I think it was really suiting that they had parkour in there, and yeah, so that's how we started Modus. We got together with those guys, and we started organizing jams in Saskatchewan, and yeah, met a really good group of lads there. Believe it or not, one of our first
Yeah.
classes at Modus was Tyler Harder. Actually, I think our first class at Modus was Tyler Harder.
It was definitely one of the first ones for sure.
Yeah, it
Like
was
pretty
him and
early on.
buddy Alan Hewitt, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
want to say it was those two showed up. But yeah, and then Tyler's one of the greatest guys ever, and a huge part of parkour history in Canada and in the world. So pretty epic to have met Tyler there, and yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
long, how long were you at Modus, Team Modus Parkour?
Well, yeah, we were at Modus Gym living in Saskatoon for 2 years, like maybe just over 2 years.
Nice. Way to
that
make
was
a
grade 10,
dent.
11.
It's
Yeah.
really hard to like move into a territory and actually make an impact on people.
I mean, yeah, when we first moved there, hey, there was like two dudes maybe that we met who did parkour, and then there was like no community.
Tom, two
Yeah.
words: love pirates.
Is that what they were called?
Love pirates.
That is, isn't it?
Are they
They're the
still
fucking
around?
love pirates. Yeah, man. And those guys were really good. They were Ukrainian dancers, so they were super fit. These guys had like horrendously strong legs, and they had like huge plyos, and they would just do like big front flips and stuff. They were actually like pretty good.
Yeah, it was
That's neat.
was it
The Love
Andrew
Pirates.
and Cam? Is that
No,
their
the Love
name?
Pirates weren't Andrew and Cam. Andrew and Cam trained with the Love Pirates.
Oh.
You
Oh,
remember that? We
yeah.
met the Love Pirates at Taiso a couple times, like
Right.
years later when they came back to hang out and stuff.
Right. I completely forgot about that.
I kind of did too. I was sitting here like you'll be able to watch my eyes going back and forth as I'm half listening to you guys, thinking of the word "love pirates" right before I went "love pirates." Go back and you can see my working, my
So,
thinker
yeah.
happening.
There certainly wasn't any like big group out there, so
No,
we kind of had to like try to. I mean, fortunately, we came from Winnipeg that already had an established community, right? So we could kind of transplant that a little bit.
yeah, that's right.
Well, is that when you were working at Fantastics upstairs or after?
Fantastics was like a decade later,
Oh,
No. like a long time later.
No. It was
2008, right? So
oh.
Fantastic was 2014 or something,
Hmm.
15.
That's
no.
but that's a
No, that had-
legendary room upstairs.
Wait, my timeline's all messed up. So we moved back in 2009. I graduated in 2010. We started at Fantastic in 2012 or 13, just like doing drop-ins.
Right,
And then the
Flares
parkour room
closed.
wasn't a thing for 2-3 years still. Like,
Right.
so,
Right.
so, and then we built that parkour room upstairs. So that, what is that, like 2015, 14?
That makes sense. That makes sense because like even if you watch the earlier episodes, which everyone should, you'll hear that like Ben and Tyrion started about 6 years ago.
You know what, Tom? I just realized 2014, 15 was when I was doing Robin Hood. So it had to have been 2012, 13 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wait. Hold up. Tell us about Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. Well, it was weird just because,
That was weird.
well, no, like the parkour room was a thing of the past, right? No, the parkour room still existed.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I had more of my students were coaching more, and I had the loft going on. So me and my roommates decided to open up the loft because we were paying $1,200 a month for rent at an apartment, and the loft was $1,250 a month.
Okay.
So we're like $50 more bucks.
And
we have
sickest
a parkour gym
place ever.
So I built that. I
We'll talk
bought
about
the stuff,
that in a minute.
built that out. And then once the loft was all built, we had a logo, we had everything good to go. I get a call from a buddy in Ottawa, from Nick Provost, shout out. And he's like, hey, like I got an offer to do this like play, this musical play kind of thing. And I'm busy and I don't really want to do it. And like he bounced it around between a couple other parkour guys and they're like, no way, man. Like 8 shows a week? No way. Like, so all these people said no. And then I kind of said no. And I think I actually tried throwing it at Tom because I was just like, no, this is like, no, I just opened this loft place. I've got shit going on. So then I told them, I said, okay, well, I'll come check out your guys' play and see what it looks like. Came and watched, and they had told me 2 actors broke their leg trying to do what I was supposed to do in this play. So I watched the play, and I'm like, oh, well, that's why you broke your leg. You guys are jumping off of 10 feet onto a thing, and you don't know what you're doing. So after the play was over, I came down to check out the stage, and they were like going to get, like, you don't understand how things work in like big, huge productions. It's really weird. Like, you have to have 10 people to get permission for something, to think of things, and they all have to talk to each other, and it's so much bureaucracy. It's insane. So I knew that. So I know the whole thing of asking for forgiveness instead of permission. So instead of waiting for them to give me permission, I just climbed up and front flipped off in my jeans. And the director was like, well, that looked incredibly easy for you. And I landed between 2 like guys who were cleaning the stage. Like, it was so like nothing. And I was like, that's the thing where your guy broke his leg. I was like, well, yeah, you should definitely have like a trained parkour athlete doing this, not an actor. And then at that point they were like, okay, like, we need to have this guy on our thing, or we need to have a parkour guy on our thing. But yeah, then they wanted me to like go through all this crap, joining like actors unions and all this stuff. And I was like, guys, I'm not an actor. I'm just some parkour guy who's coming to save your show because you guys, or help you guys save face because you choreographed shit you're not capable of doing. So then, yeah, they had me out, and they luckily paid for all that stuff, dealt with all that stuff, and had me out to Toronto. And yeah, I got to do that. And looking back, it was like one of the most amazing, epic experiences of my life. Like, it was, so me and one other guy were like the evil henchmen who had to kill Robin Hood. And it was Troy Feldman, the Canadian b-boy champion at one point. So he's like a total movement badass. And me and Troy just got to kind of like re-choreograph aspects of the play and like go into the movement stuff and really go crazy. And yeah, that was epic. There's a lot of work. 8 shows a week is very tiring. It like took up my whole life for that period of time that I was there, but I made a lot of money and had a lot of good experiences from it. So
yeah, we're actually in the previous episode when we were talking to Jesse about stunt work. We're saying how much of a sacrifice it actually is, because that's kind of all you're doing. Like, you're not going to train really.
Tom, think of how much would have potentially happened in the time I was doing the Robin Hood thing if I stayed at the loft.
Right. How long were you actually out there for again? Like, was it?
You can never know like what would have been or whatever. Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, we spent all this time setting up all this shit and putting all this infrastructure in, and then, you know, we didn't really jump on that. So yeah.
Yeah. How long did you do Robin Hood for?
I think it was like 5 months. I want to say 6 months, maybe.
Pretty good chunk of time.
Yeah, because we did 2 weeks in Winnipeg, and then the rest of it we were at the Heart of Robin, or what was it called? Royal Alexandra Theatre in Toronto on Queen Street.
Right.
It's a nice venue.
Mervish Productions, shout out.
Yeah, that was a great show.
That was a good show.
It was really good. I probably would have watched it again.
People I got to work with: Parsons Field, Troy. That's it. Just kidding. No, the other people. They were all really nice. I like you guys. I like they're not listening, but whatever.
I mean, lots of people, they've gone on to some other big projects too, right? So
shit, I see them on every now and then. I'll be watching a show on TV or Netflix or something. I'm like, oh, you guy. So yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is kind of neat. So tell me about the loft. I love the loft. What a brilliant idea. So Marc with a roommate built this, like, was it a hostel? Is that what you called it?
We called it a hostel, but we didn't charge people to stay there, so it wasn't really a hostel.
Coolest thing, people. You go up the stairs and you get into this like flat, and then you walk in and there was 18-foot ceilings. Is that what it was?
Yeah. I don't know. They were really high.
They were high, yeah.
Yeah, and scaff filling that space. And then upstairs was like...
I want to say the ceilings were 6 meters high, because I could fit 2 3-meter standards. So yeah, it'd be about 6 meters, 5 to 6 meters.
And then there's like a bedroom and another level, and then a deck outside that you should stride across.
Oh yeah. Roof gap. That was the best part. We had a roof gap, like an actual to the neighbor's roof, and he was a DJ and he was like all into it. So he's like, "Oh yeah, you guys can stride on my roof anytime." Like, so yeah, we'd be having parties, and I just remember this one time, knock, knock, knock on the door. It's like the maintenance guy for the building, and it's this little Mexican guy. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, you can't really have people climbing on the building. Like, what?" He's kind of like all freaking out. He's like, "Your friends, they're climbing on the building, man." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Like, he's like one of the best rock climbers I've ever met. And that guy there is a professional parkour athlete. He's jumping between the buildings. And this guy, and he's like, "Oh, no way, man." And I showed him a couple videos, and the guy was all impressed. And then the owner of the building and a few of his friends came one time during one of our parties to like watch us mucking around. And they were like, they knocked on the door and they were like, "Oh, this is really cool." And he just wanted to show his friends our scaffold. So
Yeah, it was a really good idea. Like,
I mean, that's a dream, right? Like, wake up and you're in your training space.
yeah, the only thing I would change is rent. You don't want to be renting a place like that.
Right.
But that's kind of, it's actually funny because I found all these old posts from, this was already now, this is 5 almost, or maybe actually 6 years ago. This is 6 years ago now that this happened. We left there and we were going to look for private property to do this. So we had started talking about building on my grandpa's land. So that was funny that's 6 years ago. And now I'm on my grandpa's land building this. So maybe then like what I'm doing right now with Jungle Jam and all this, maybe this can end up becoming what the loft was in a lot of ways. So having a place for people from all over the world, crash, have campsites, play Airbnb units you can rent out and whatever. And having the biggest parkour play structure in the whole world is something we could boast, probably having that set up all the time. It's all amazing. And I want to have crazy shit. I want to have ponds where you can swing over them and like all kinds of stuff. We want to just go nuts. So
knowing you.
Right.
I like cool.
So everyone can support Sage Movement, buy lots of stuff, so then we can give money towards Jungle Jam.
Exactly.
You
Well, you know what? Lazare is a really Métis town, and I don't know if you know this, Christy. Tom and I are both Métis.
yes, I did know that. Yeah, I drove down Selby Street or Avenue.
Yeah, in Saint Lazare. That's right.
That's
My
kind of
family
a
has a
weird
little bit
feeling.
of history with that town. It is a weird feeling. It's
It
really
is.
how about I was gonna backflip my snowboard on Selby Street this year.
Oh.
The street got salted and graveled before we could shoot the shot, but yeah, we were on Selby Street at like after a snowstorm, like bright and early in the morning, getting ready to backflip like on my street. It was really weird.
No, it's kind of neat. Yeah.
But anyways, actually, you know what's funny? On that street, the house my dad grew up in, there's this guy Tonchi. He's like kind of the chief of the Machif out here. He's kind of like the Métis chief, and he could probably help get me some funding and stuff for Jungle Jam. And the town is really backing what I'm doing, so that's really good. And that's one of the important reasons. Like with me staying out here in Lazare, and well, I'm actually in Russell right now, but with me being out here in this area and mingling, and like when Tom came and snowboarded, he met a few guys. You met Miles and Will and stuff. They're in that clip doing wall flips that I posted this morning on Selby Parkour at Jungle Jam. That's the same boys that you met.
Oh, I don't think I saw that clip.
I posted this morning on Selby Parkour, but
check it out.
it's like all these kids who are around here who go to Mississippi and they do all their snowboarding, all the skateboard culture around here. There's a lot of kids who are really bored, reminiscent of me and you in Saskatoon when we were kids.
Yeah.
They seem really bored, and it's kind of that field of dreams idea. If you build it, he will come. I kind of started building this crazy shit. All these kids started showing up. Luckily, they weren't ghost kids, so that wasn't creepy.
Yeah, they weren't former professional parkour athletes coming back.
Yeah, they were whispering things at me. But other than that, it was pretty much like Field of Dreams. All these kids are showing up and throwing down and having a good time. So yeah.
Sick.
Well, I can't wait to see the 10th year of Jungle Jam. You know, like what that looks like.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah.
10 years in. Oh my God.
That's what I'm talking about.
We'll look back at this, and this will be kind of like our time capsule of, like, you know, when people in 1950 were talking about, the future, we're gonna have flying cars, it's gonna be great. See, like this will be us talking about Jungle Jam. So
You're gonna be like
cars, but
you're gonna be like 80 years old and be like, I was living in my RV.
That's not a backflip.
Digging up.
Touring people around the like Selby Parkour grounds and showing them all the crazy shit. So that's the thing. I mean,
Parkour park / museum.
Yeah, I can't
Right?
see Mark to see what he looks like at 80. Like, I just,
Oh.
unstoppable.
Here, I'll keep my face still, and you can use an app, and you can find out what I look like
No,
at
please
80.
don't do that. That freaks me out. No way.
Use a filter.
So you went climbing there for a bit. Like, it's kind of cool to see a transition. Like, so you lived in Sherwood Forest? And
Um,
that's,
my first year rock climbing, I lived at Jones Road in Kenora. And then second season, I spent some time at Jones and then also at Echo Creek. And then, yeah, third season, I was more interested in doing my own developing. I mean, I'd put up some first ascents at the popular crags, but they were pretty, what's the word, sucked pretty dry. Just because like people have been climbing there since the 70s and 80s and whatever. So I picked
Right.
spots like Sherwood Forest, and that's where I like to develop now because there's more to find. Just I feel like for me, climbing, that itch that I scratch is the same thing that I was doing with parkour, which is like once I drained the city of shit to do. It's like, oh my God, I'm going bored. I need to go to another country or go somewhere else to stay entertained. So for me, rock climbing in a place where it's all done isn't the most entertaining thing. I like to go and kind of pave my own way and find new original stuff. So Sherwood Forest.
Right.
Sherwood Forest is like pretty much me and Rob Hester. So two guys.
I guess like you got more like you were into bouldering first before you started like all the like going out to the middle of nowhere and setting up routes, right?
Well, actually, most of the boulders I set are more in the middle of nowhere than the roping I do. Like boulders, sometimes you have to hike kilometers just to get to a boulder that we like found in the middle of nowhere and scrubbed and set problems on it. But yeah, like first season I was doing top roping and some lead climbing. Second season I was trad climbing, where you put your own anchors and whatever.
I'm
But
still
yeah.
not familiar with rock climbing. I don't know any terminology. It's awful.
I really think, Tom, it would be a good thing for you to take on eventually because it's not that hard. It's just fun. It's really fun.
pretty fun. It is. It puts yourself in a different position, and it's kind of neat that you can sprawl your body to get to the same point A to point B.
Yeah, that's one thing that I always find really funny is I get in a lot of shit from climbers for being that parkour guy. And it's their misconception is that I'm this parkour guy who's just going to do impractical and flashy and showy offy things. And it's like, it's so funny, guys, that's so the opposite of the approach I'm taking at it. Like I purely took an efficiency approach with rock climbing and like trying to think like every time I'm using ropes or anything like that, I'm thinking about like developing myself as a solo climber and like, how would I really feel if I was up here in this position right now with no protection? Like that's the whole goal of training it is to become like, I don't know, this sounds really stupid to like base like something you would work on in your life off of a scene in a movie, but it's pretty bad when Batman can't get out of the fucking like hole in the ground that Ra's al Ghul, whatever, put him in. And it's like no one in this cave knows how to belay properly, and they're like, and they don't know how to put in anchors. They don't know how to do anything, and they're taking these huge unnecessary whips that like on static rope, and they like if they just had a little bit of skill, like just a little bit, they could get out of that hole so easily, like so easily. It's like a 5'8", 5'7".
And do you really think it would take the greatest detective on earth that long to figure out that a rope was holding him back?
You know, those scenarios I think about all the time. Like people just come out of a movie and they're like, "Well, if anything happened to me and my family, I'd throw my daughter through the window and then I'd jump out after." I'm like, "Okay, show me
Have
what
you
that looks
practiced
like."
that? Yeah, show me. Show me
Show me what
once.
that looks like. Like, well,
Yeah.
I'll take this. I'm like, so you're gonna crack your child's head open, and you're gonna break your hip or your leg, like,
Yeah.
So you want to learn parkour when things go down,
Yeah.
but not so. I want to learn how to fail on the streets, but not while I'm in the gym. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's similar to these people who say, "Oh, I'm a lover, not a fighter," and it's like, well, that you're kind of victim blaming by saying like, I'm not I'd love to have been a lover my whole life, but there's been opportunities, or sorry, there's been situations where if I had chosen to be a lover, I wouldn't be here and wouldn't be alive to tell you the story right now. So I had to choose fighting, and it's like like with parkour, it's the same way where you can just be in denial your whole life until it actually happens one day, or you can start training. And I mean, yeah, probably you're not gonna have to throw your kid off of a roof or
I
whatever,
know.
but we all see the viral videos and shit now. Like I saw one a little while ago, where it was a lady and she had to like lower her kid off of a burning balcony and like drops the kid, and a crowd of people is there and they catch the kid. And she's like 3 floors up. And then it's like after the video, it's like, luckily the kid survived, but the mom died. And I'm like, why'd you die? Why'd you have to die? Like a broken pelvis wouldn't have been so bad, or a collarbone. You could have just like went over the rail. Like you don't, no technique whatsoever. You could have just gone over and been okay. But some people are less afraid of fire than they are of like something that's completely not unreasonable, like down climbing. But
There's a potential for harm, but you're
they're so
facing literal
disconnected from
death.
reality, Tom, that their irrational fear is more powerful than like objective reality around them, like tenfold. So I think parkour is a really good system for bringing you down to earth and bringing you down to reality. In the same way that sparring is good for bringing people down to earth when they think they're like, some people think that, oh, I would just walk up and punch him and then his head would blow up and that would be that. And then the mug evaded. And it's like, hey, buddy, like, have you ever been in a sparring like a situation? It's like, it's not that easy. It's really hard. So sparring brings people down to earth. Training parkour brings you down to earth. It teaches you, hey, you're not Clark Kent. You're not going to go through up the wall, and it's not going to work out the way you think it is unless you train for it.
Especially even if you are like somewhat trained, you get into a real situation, and as soon as adrenaline kicks in, you're like in a whole totally different mindset, right? Like, if you're not ready for it, things aren't muscle memory.
One time, me and Sam Armstrong, we were with Mickey and Sonny, and we're at Pinawa Dam. And me and Sam Armstrong, we fly up the Wall of Doom solo, right? We just go bloop. And for people who don't know what that is, that's like a 60-foot horrific slab climb that we were doing before we were parkour athletes. And it's like, yeah, it's horrendous. So me and Sam climb up to the top. We're up on top of this thing and we're waiting for Sonny. And Sonny's like 15 feet below us. So he should be coming up over the edge any minute now. All of a sudden we hear like a little like catastrophe. And then Mickey starts yelling and she's like, guys, come down quick. Sonny's hurt. And like Sonny's not on the wall anymore. I'm like, oh shit. And me and Sam, there's like no way, if you know that spot, there's no way back down besides either down climbing or going all the way around the whole dam. And we weren't about to like do a 20-minute hike to get to our friend. So me and Sam were originally up there sussing out a 15 or so foot gap. I think about 14, 15 feet. It's not unreasonable by any means, but I guess the unreasonable part is that it's a chossy takeoff. It's all like loose, horrible concrete. So it's not like you'd want to bring a broom up there.
Yeah, the wall's falling apart.
It's all falling apart. And the run up is like about the same size as the gap. Like you don't have a huge run up from my memory. So me and Sam, we were originally going to climb up and look at this gap, but we weren't planning on doing it. And then Mickey yells, guys, Sonny's hurt, get down here. So like me and Sam looked at each other, and there wasn't even any process whatsoever. It was completely like, in parkour, and you can do something and you're going to do it, but you're going to still be going through this 10-minute process or whatever until you do it. That was gone instantly. It was gone instantly. There was no question. We're going. So me and Sam looked at each other, and then we both did the gap, and we were down at Sonny in like a second. And then, that was really gnarly. But that was like just one example of like us actually using parkour where like it was in a fight or flight situation, and it was like, holy crap! Like your ability to process things and actually react is so good. It's really awesome.
And to use that adrenaline too, like not to blow it up, to know, like you said, like in the street, like to know when you're training martial arts, the best thing you can do is not fight at all, right? But you learn how to use that adrenaline and, kind of turn it into something
muscle memory.
Yeah, but the last thing you want to do is that. So like even like going over that gap, you kind of learn how to like harness that adrenaline, like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'm not kind of that scared, like it's just, I've done this a billion times before, it's just like on this like
exactly
crumbling relic, kind of thing.
It's so cool that when we try to like control our adrenaline, or we try to like play with fear and stuff like that, you know, the reality is you don't have to do it. You can do all the trickery you want, but at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I could just leave. I could just go home and leave the gym and not do this. But when your friend is injured on the ground, it's okay. We're doing this. I just
Right.
love that how in that flight or flight situation, there is no decision. It's just immediate. Well, it was for me, and I know it was for Sam, and I think it is for most people.
Cool. Good story.
Yeah, like that was a good like using parkour story. One time, me and Ron got locked up on
Ron.
like when we first moved into the
Shout out
loft,
to
we got
Ron.
locked up on the roof because we didn't realize there's a one-way door. So that first time the loft was down climbed was me like getting us off the roof.
Cool.
And that was like, it took us maybe 40 minutes of like sussing it out and like deciding to commit to it. And it was like, yeah, down climbed off a three floor building.
Foot
Wow.
placement, hand placement.
Oh, it was actually in the end, we were like, oh, this is a really fun challenge. So it was like kind of good it happened.
I remember you telling me about that.
Actually, Justin Biggity just told me like a month ago that him and Jesse went back there like a year ago. Like it's probably someone else's condo now. And they climbed up the side and they did the roof gap.
Really?
Yeah, and they said like the skateboard grip tape is still there that we put on the sheet metal, like for the roof gap. Me and Sam had put grip tape on the takeoff and landing, so that way like you wouldn't slip. Little known fact,
Wow.
the first time that gap was in the rain.
Yeah.
So it was horrifically slippery, so we needed to have that there.
Yeah. Nothing like a challenge, hey?
So
Even in the
Um,
rain.
with all these, you know, different activities and the years of your training, how are you feeling like physically, like from, I mean, I know you've had some injuries, but now that you're gonna be 29 soon, everyone say happy birthday to Mark in a couple weeks.
Happy birthday.
How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. Like, actually, if you were to compare me up against like lots of my other 29-year-old friends I grew up with, like physically, the place they're in is probably a lot worse off than where I'm at, because they have negligence injuries, like where they just never had the strength in their joint and now their body's like beaten up by it. I'd like to try on the spot to serve you guys with an analogy. Okay. So if you went in my car right now and you pulled up to some snow and you're like, oh shit, I think I'll get stuck. If you had a 6-inch lift, you would try and you would go a bit deeper. And if you go a bit deeper, oh, you're more likely to get stuck. Okay, well, if we had a 6-inch higher lift, oh, then we can go a bit deep. The higher your lift is on the car, the farther you'll push it with deep snow. So your
Right.
likelihood of getting stuck or injured is going to end up being the same.
Right.
Like I do like significantly crazier things than anyone else who's my age usually. Like for my regular friends, my muggle friends,
Yeah.
I do way crazier stuff. So it's like I have a way bigger lift on my truck. I go in deeper snow than they do. Like,
Right.
yeah, I get stuck about as often as they do. Yeah, my knee hurts and Ricky's knee hurts or whatever. But
Yes.
it's like I'm out like bashing my body in these streets, you know? Like
Yes.
I get mangled. Like if you actually just made it like a bail reel of my life, I'm bailing all the time. Like all
Yeah.
the time. I'm just, it's not bad. I'm always laughing when I bail and I get up and I'm like, oh, that's funny. And like, I think you have to become really good at that and be comfortable with that. So yeah, my lift is pretty good on my truck. So yeah, I push the deep snow. I push the deep snow pretty often.
Good
Right.
analogy.
Said, my truck is still pretty damn good.
Do
And
you
if I want to go back to low snow, that's going to be nothing for me because it's the
Yeah.
deep snow, right? That I'm challenging myself with. I don't know.
Fundamental
That's my
systems.
analogy for my
do you
body.
do anything like, you know, kind of rehab or prehab stuff to, like, daily to take care of yourself, or you're just pretty good for the most part?
Secret time. Let's have some secret time. So secret time
Tell
is
us
if
your
my
secret.
customers and the people I market toward were here right now, I'd be saying, oh yeah, like prehab, rehab, all this stuff, because at the end of the day, I know how to teach that stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, regardless of what I tell them, they're going to want all that stuff and they're going to put so much focus onto working on their car that I have the skills to help them work on their car.
Right.
But do I value it for myself or care about any of that stuff for myself? Not really. I go by feel. Like if
Yeah.
I start to feel bad in one area, I can switch areas. And I've got more than enough shit to entertain my body. Like say I did so much plyo work that I just, those days where you went 2-3 parkour jams in a row and you wake up and you can like you're stiff as hell. Go hangboard. Go hangboard, dude. Your fingers are fine. Your fingers are just fine.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I snowboard until my hips can barely move, because recently I found it sometimes it's hard to lift my legs off, like to just like lift my leg in the air because I'm like, oh my God, my hips are so blown out from twisting in my hips from snowboarding.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I'll go do some like rock climbing. So I go on my rock climbing wall and I'll do some like crack climbing where I have to twist my hips back and forth. And it's instead of like the loose snowboarding twisting, it's like resistance. It's more like resistance training where I'm having to torque into my hip.
Right.
So I just changed it up. So even though it's still hip, it's like different on my hip.
Agreed.
But anyways, yeah, there's always enough things that I can be working on, even just in the world of parkour. But because I like snowboarding and parkour and rock climbing and martial arts and biking and everything, there's so many things to divvy it up. But let's just say I did only parkour, I could easily divvy up the soreness with just parkour. Precision's one day, wall climbs the other day. You can switch it up. So. Yeah. I don't talk too much about like that stuff, injuries. I don't know. I feel like that whole injuries and all that, it becomes a really easy excuse for people. So I try not to, we all deal with it.
Yeah, I have this mind-body connection. I have like self-talk to my body. I'm like, oh, like I sit there in a crouch position. I'm like, so you know who's in charge right now? You think you're in charge right now? The body? No. The brain is telling what the body to do. So if you fail, you're failing me. Kind of thing, right?
Tyrion made a good point too, though, right? Where sometimes we can get so like with the one more time shit, where we start to ignore listening to our body, and it's just one more time.
Yeah.
But you know what though? I don't look at that as a negative. I look at everything I do and all the training gives me the opportunity to do that. I love that. I get to sometimes just mangle myself. Like when you see that skateboarder where he'll hit a rail 50 times in a row and you're like, why is this guy getting up? What's he doing? Like, dude, leave. And he's just getting mangled. And you're like, there's probably other shit you could be working on. Like, this is not the progression you need to be in. But the thing is, it's become more than that. It's become a war. It's a war between him and that problem. And of course he could go and take the Nigel Houston approach and just like have more progression. And of course he doesn't need to be mangling himself, but the war is on. It's already started. And like, that is such a fucking fun process that I would never want to like look at that as this negative thing that I'm trying to avoid. It's like, no, I stay in shape so I can go to war. Like even with martial arts, like I don't sit and strike a bag so I can look like a martial artist. I strike a bag because one day I might go to war with some guy and I want to be able to hit him harder than he hits me. Like,
no, I totally feel you. A lot of people do a lot of things just for social media, like, and then they can't like walk for a day or two because they're hitting the bag with like the wrong way. They twisted their foot or something. They're kicking, or they burn out their foot because of not wearing a padding because of the canvas bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That mentality is definitely more old school parkour too. Like that was always something that was like popular, right? It was like a warrior mentality.
True.
And that's like not really talked about now.
Tom, I want to just quickly say this. You should read Rock Warrior's Way. I think it's called Rock Warrior's Way. Yeah, it's Arno Ilgner. He's a rock climber, but he wrote this book called Rock Warrior's Way about like training for rock climbing and mental training and whatever. And oh man, that book like really, it's the best book I've ever read for like mental game by far. And you can apply it to parkour. You can apply it to whatever you want.
Sweet.
But it's called Rock Warrior's Way, and you should read it. And I think he based it off of another book called The Way of the Warrior or something like that. But I think it's like he took this warrior thing and applied it to rock climbing. But when he even talks about it in the book, he says like, oh yeah, you could apply this to long distance running or whatever the hell you want, really. But it's the warrior's way, and it's, oh man.
It's just like a philosophy.
Yeah, sometimes you don't realize how like these things you read or these ideas you hear, they can just kind of like plant themselves in your brain, and then you kind of subconsciously go and you're living off of that and you don't even realize it. Okay. But yeah, that warrior shit's pretty big for me. I mean, you can see why like just having this conversation with you guys, I'm kind of realizing how big of a deal it is for me to be a warrior,
Yeah, like you can see why Bruce Lee was such an inspiration, right? Like,
oh yeah,
to the
shout out to
OGs.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, Bruce.
Sorry, Tom, go on.
Gotta do that Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The way of
Like,
intercepting fists.
That's
take
actually what we can talk about too. Like for your background, besides climbing, you did a bit of mixed martial arts. So that same type of mentality, right, would have
Yeah.
carried over. And that was even early parkour days too, or a bit before parkour.
Before parkour, I think also dad kind of had us sparring karate when we were kids and practicing katas and stuff. And then I know mom took us to a couple like community center things. Like I did a little bit of community center karate, and then I did Fort Rouge Leisure Center kickboxing Muay Thai course
Oh yeah,
for a
that's
year.
right. Yeah.
And then after that, Valpado Studio. But for me, martial arts like was like I told you that same thing with like parkour was already who I was, and then I just kind of found out what it was called.
Yeah.
Martial arts felt that same way, where it's like it was just. I think it really, if you have to give credit to like somebody as to why me and you and Ken are the way we are, it's obviously dad. It's just because dad's a loony. His dad grew up doing handstands and flips.
That's true.
And if anyone says they could beat dad in a fight, it's like no, like that's serious discussion has to happen first. You can't just make that claim that you could beat my dad in a fight. You can't just say that. You got to prove it.
That's
like
true.
I don't know. I grew up with an intense father, and yeah, I love my parents so much, but they really inspired us to be kind of crazy. And our mom too is an absolute loony. Like when it comes to sports,
Yeah.
it's still just like kill most people I know in physical feats of strength. So.
All right, so these two have a bias towards their parents.
Yeah.
Like, your parents are sweethearts. Like,
Yeah.
They embrace me as if I'm a part of your family, and I feel like I'm a part of your family when I'm around you all. Like, I mean, it's a cool feeling. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but shout out to the Selby family.
Mark, what did you think, like, when you started doing parkour street stunts? Like, how do you think mom and dad felt about that?
Ooh. You're gonna crack your head open.
Well, I was already skateboarding, and like they would kind of. I remember mom would give me like a little allowance for a Slurpee and a chocolate bar kind of thing, like a max allowance or 7-Eleven or whatever. And I'd go to the St. Vital skateboard park and I'd spend like sometimes 6 to 8 hours there, and I'd come home with my shins covered in blood from like their bike pedals, skateboard banging into it, or like a scooter banging into it. But my shins were just getting mangled, and like I would come home like. I remember specifically my mom would buy peroxide like from the drugstore, and like I was the peroxide kid who always had to be opening the new things of peroxide because of how often I was getting mangled. And so for my mom, I think she was just excited that there wasn't wheels under my feet and that I would have like, and she saw how controlled I was. Like Tom will remember in grade 5, I went to a school called Riverview for 1 year. Because I had some school issues as a kid and I was bounced around, but I went to Riverview for a year. And at that school is a 3-floor school. I went down all 3 floors on my hands and then walked into the cafeteria on my hands. But that's the challenges I would do for myself when I was a little kid. It was always that way. Tom will attest to a lot of this.
No one saw potential back then, right?
And stuff.
They saw you as a bad kid.
I'm such a stoner. I don't know what you guys said.
Well, I was just saying, like, people see that kind of talent as, like, oh, you're bad, you shouldn't be doing that. Not like, okay, this kid is exceptional. Like, let's take this kid and nurture him instead of, like...
You were asking if my mom was concerned about it. And it's like, yeah, no, not really. Just because that's, like, again, it's not like I got into parkour. Like, my mom was like, oh, yeah, Mark, that's the, like as soon as, if someone would have said to my mom, hey, like, if she discovered it before we did, and so like the way Ryland's mom got him into parkour. Yeah. If someone told my mom about parkour, she would have been like, "Oh, yeah, I'm bringing all 3 of my boys." That's like it would have been obvious. There would have been no question.
Also, a little note. I went to school with Ryland's mom.
Actually, I think I knew that. I did know that.
I'm kind of.
For some reason, I knew that.
Shout out to her too.
Actually, I really like Ryland's parents. I like all the parents of those kids, like Tyrion's parents and Ryland's parents and Ben's parents. They're all really good. I like all those guys.
You got to be, on the same wavelength, right? If you're all kind of accepting of the same thing.
It's kind of neat.
That's true.
Yeah. So going off of that, Mark, how do you see like people?
Joni's falling asleep and it's so cute. Sorry.
How do you see people in the parkour community that you came up with or taught or now like their achievements? What do you think of like them still doing parkour or moving on to other things? Are you following some people? Are you really interested in
I follow all those boys. Like
Right on, right on.
I've watched everything you guys have been doing, and I have really bad internet, so like I'm not trying to like pump up my own tires too much here, but like if somebody watches your guys' thing in the city, that's a big deal. If I watch your thing, it's a really big deal. It means I
Right
sat
on,
phone up
thanks.
against the window for an hour or whatever,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
download it, city reception, and then I'm like off in the forest trying to like, yeah. So like I don't have, for people who don't know, I'm like off grid and I'm a bushman, and yeah. So for me to like download that stuff isn't the easiest, but I love hearing what those kids are up to and everything. And I love how I say those kids. They'll probably be 30 years old, and I'll be calling them those kids.
Yeah.
Like the weirdest thing I can possibly think of is sitting in a pub with all of them at a table and having a beer. It's like the weirdest
Right.
thing.
It is. It
It's
is.
children to me, but at the same time, they are growing up, and I think they're like any coach. This should be the goal of any coach. They're better than I ever was. All my students are amazing because they got all the good shit and not the bad shit, and they're smarter than I am. They're more humble than I am. I love those kids. They're better than me in every way. They're the best.
I mean, that's ultimately the goal, right? Like every time you teach someone is make them better than you were.
Yeah. And they are. Like oh man, Ben is my favorite parkour athlete in the world. And that's not to pick on the other boys. That's not to say that they're not as good as Ben.
You guys heard it here first.
Ben's my favorite parkour athlete in the world. And this is coming from someone who's trained with the best parkour athletes in the world. Or well.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that too after.
Check out sagemovement.net for apparel. We have the Essentials, OG, and custom prints. Now the Essentials, there's these awesome hoodies, beanies, joggers, and yes, the Sage mug. Everyone's been asking for it, so now it can be yours. The OG is what I'm wearing right now. It's the Sage logo with parkour, tricking, and free running. It's actually it's one of my favorite t-shirts to wear. And the custom prints, I don't want to spoil it. You have to go check them out yourself. They're really, really great. And if you want to see our athletes in action, go see YouTube, Sage Movement. Also, Instagram, Sage Movement. It's a real freak show, to tell you the truth. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. That really helps us. And thank you for your support. Now, back to Tom.
So, what were you saying? Before we
About Ben and the
all the
boys.
interruptions, yeah.
Okay, so all these interruptions, but before that, we were talking about the boys. Yeah, so no, I was just saying, I think Ben and those boys, they're like my favorite athletes in the world. Ben in particular is my favorite athlete in the world. And after that, like I went to 2015 Pro Jam. I trained with like some really good guys, and they've got style where if I were to film them and then turn it all into silhouettes, I'd be able to go, oh yeah, that's Pip. Yeah, that's Eric. Yeah, that's like, I'd be able to tell you which athlete is which because they have this really strong style.
Yeah.
And Ben and those boys, they're all getting there now, like where they have a style, but at the same time, their style, Ben's style is so pure and so clean and so controlled that it would be really hard to put a finger on if it's him or just any other really technical parkour guy. And once style starts to disappear a little bit, like, and it becomes this like, it looks like a fucking, it looks like perfect. Like it's not like style usually comes from like, if you had all these categories of balance and strength and speed and agility, all these different areas, you're 9 out of 10 for that, 8 out of 10 for that, oh, you're 10 out of 10 for that, oh, you're 7 out of 10 for that. And then you end up with this mix that comes up with a style.
Right.
Yeah.
If all your areas are 10, you're not going to have a style. You did it right. And I think that's where Ben's at. Like when he does a line where he really dedicates himself to it, he does it right. And I like that about Ben. He's like, oh man, that line was good. Yeah.
Like that.
Actually, you know what, Tom? The one line in Serratus where he was like, he worked at it for a couple of weeks, I guess, and he was like striding across the tops of the walls and like as little steps as possible, and then plow to the middle bar, and then plow to the wall, and then that huge arm jump.
Yeah.
And then somebody I was showing that to a muggle, and then they're like, "Oh my god!" And then he does the castaway, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, but the castaway or the worm cast,
Like not even the hardest part.
no, it's like it's fuck all. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's literally nothing compared to everything else you just did.
Oh,
So it's like it's the cherry on the cake, maybe,
Yeah.
but even then, it's like I didn't even need it. Ben didn't do that wall cast. It would have been for me because I'm not a
Yeah.
layman. I would have been like, that's all he needed to do. But the fact that the lay person sees that and
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, and the backflip at the end," and I'm like, "Oh god!" Like the parkour is so amazing that I don't really get it. But
people definitely can't appreciate it because they've never really tried to do it, right? They think, oh, yeah, you just run and jump, but it's like, when was the last time you tried to run and jump? Like you could probably do like a quarter of that distance.
Well, and not even just being able to make it to that wall, but when you like most people, if they did that arm jump, like even an NHL guy, if he did that arm jump, it'd be on the news the next day that fucking Pavel, whatever, some guy, Russian NHL player, slammed into a wall from 15 feet, slammed into the wall. He's in emergency intensive care. We're gonna keep updating you guys, let you know how he's doing. His fucking head split open.
Yeah.
We hope his hockey career can continue. Like it's an accident. It's like an actual accident controlled. When you're jumping that far, when you're jumping 15, 20 feet, it's a controlled accident. And if you mess up or you slip, you're in that accident.
Love that you
Like,
said that.
people have no idea. That's why when some goofball was at the Forks last summer, I can't remember. There's a few of the boys were trying my black belt challenge, my level 5 Selby challenge to get the free Jungle Jam ticket. And that challenge is ridiculous. It's so like ridiculous. Me and Tyrion are the only people on earth who've done it at this point. And some guy was walking by and he's like, "Oh, just jump to it." And he's all like, and I stopped the guy and I said, "I don't have a lot of money, but I could get $1,000 together. Like, if you can do this, I'll give you $1,000 and you can try all day." So you can call your best athlete friends, guys from high school you grew up with, volleyball players, whatever. Call them down. I'll give them $1,000. They can't do it. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Fucking Olympian can't do it. Because it's a level 5. It's like saying, "Oh, I'm gonna beat this guy in a jiu-jitsu match, and he's a Gracie 10th planet." And what, like, you know, like, are you?
Yeah.
You're not gonna beat him. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, and you don't know jiu-jitsu. He's gonna give you a mocking, teaching little grapple session, and then you're gonna feel like a child. That's all that's gonna happen. It doesn't matter if you're Mr. Universe. He can mangle you.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing when you're talking about a muggle trying the stuff that Tyrion and Ben and them do. It's not even. They could try to imagine what the movement is all about, but it's so much more complex than they could ever fathom. And nothing would really hit them with that reality besides trying it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's hard for people, I think, to really appreciate just by watching a video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when you see sorry, excuse me there, like just on a video how small things look too.
yeah,
Right.
Like, so if you do see something that's big in a video, you know it's actually gigantic. Like it's so massive because videos make things look like no big deal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know what? It's funny because like my brain's pretty good at like looking at a video and knowing what it would look like in person. I have a conversion thing now that goes on that happens when I watch videos, converts because I've seen this live and in video, so I have the conversion happening. But you're right.
Yeah.
You don't have that. There you go. I have no perception of how big that was, or no idea what went into that.
Yeah, I definitely gained like a pretty good, well, an even better appreciation for all the Cambridge videos after having actually been there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all the things at like Lions Yard or Lions Rails or whatever. It's like that's a lot bigger than it looks like.
Oh yeah. Like just like when you watch old videos of Phil Doyle and he's barefoot and he strides across line rails and then twizzles on the wall and strides back and then down across the bench. And it just like, it looks like young Phil still, where he's all like young Darren Timko mode, where he's all scrawny and like not in his prime or anything yet. And he just makes it look so like nothing.
Like he's just stepping across it.
You're in your prime and you've been banging some big old strides and you get there and you can't even do it at all.
Yeah.
Then you realize how good Phil and those guys really are. I know Tyler's going to touch on this, so I just kind of want to like beat him to it. When you guys interview Tyler, he's going to talk about the first time we went to Cambridge seeing like 15 and 16-year-olds doing wall runs like feet above what you can do, and doing arm jumps feet bigger than you can do, and doing precisions like feet bigger than you can do. And it just how mind-blowing that was for me and Tyler to be around that. And then, well, Spain too. Like that trip in general was just a real mind fuck. Like it was a real mind flipper. Like to go from like what we thought was reality to all of a sudden like spend 2 weeks with like the craziest athletes in the world, and like Daniel Ibaka and all these guys just casually throwing crazy stuff. And it's like, holy shit. It changed the level changed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that was your first time going overseas, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was my first time. Yeah.
Was that when you did the flow stuff? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
His first trip was with Tyler Harder, and me and him did Liverpool. Well, sorry, we got there. We did Cambridge first, and then we went to Liverpool and spent some time at the Ilabaka's house, and met the Sang family and Airborne Academy and all them. And then we carried on to, we were supposed to actually do a parkour pilgrimage to like Lease and Every, and like we were going to go do Manpower and all that stuff. And that was what our trip was going to be. But then Scott was like, oh, it looks like the weather's really terrible all weekend, you know, like, and like basically convinced us that we need to go to Spain instead. And that's kind of where the parkour was like hot at the moment anyways. And Scott knew it, and we know Scott knows his shit. So we listened, and like, yeah, really glad that happened. I don't think I would trade a parkour pilgrimage for the experiences I got in that trip. We stayed at Adrian Pueyo's house from Madrid Art del Desplacemento. And those guys were like the coolest guys in the world. And like, oh my God, Tom, are like, they're so good. Like Kosman at 14, like, I can't even explain some of these guys.
Yeah. Oh, he's a legend now.
Like people who don't know Alberto from Mad and Kosman, and like just the what guys from Mad, like watching those guys when they were younger, like back then, they were like almost as good as they are now. Like, I mean, although some of the shit Kosman posts now, I'm like, what the fuck is that? But they were really good. They were really, really good. They were like way ahead of their time. And so it felt like for me, and probably for Tyler too, like we stepped out of 2000, whatever year that was, 2010 or whatever, and stepped into, or wait, what year was that? I guess that'd been like 2012 or something, 2013.
That was after Parkour Tour, right?
2013, I guess. Yeah. Or 12. Yeah. 2012 or 2013. But anyways, it felt like stepping out of 2012 and stepping into 2020.
Right.
They were so good then, those guys, the best guys, that you could take them to a jam now and they'd still be the best, and everyone would go, what the hell, who are these guys? Like, that's how good they were.
Yeah.
So really, really mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think that was good, just even for the community here, like after you went there and came back, and just it kind of spread through here too, like
oh yeah,
elevated things. And it was just like at the time, like I guess we still had YouTube, but when you actually hear about it, like this person, you know, saw someone do this huge jump this way, it's just like, what?
Yeah,
that's possible.
Makes it real, right?
Like,
it
like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess we gotta jump further.
Basically.
Yeah. I remember years ago I was listening to Carl Sagan talking about like two-dimensional creatures being lifted off of a two-dimensional plane and brought into a third world dimension and then dropped, and then like experiencing what falling is, and then describing it to the two-dimensional creatures when they get back. And I remember like really understanding what he was talking about, because I was like, this is actually very similar to like becoming almost like a European parkour athlete. Like they were like so on another dimension. Like cool. That's really a lame way of putting it. But anyways,
no, I like it. That's cool.
But I mean, the sport really did develop so much in, you know, the UK and the rest of Europe, right? So
and like, Tom, do you remember seeing like strides and plyos and things like that? And like, we didn't even do strides. No one did strides. No one plyoed. No one was moving forward and then took off 2 feet.
Actually, yes. Something that was mentioned in a Jimmy the Giant video recently was how people used to Kong off of both feet.
2 foot punch.
The
book,
2 foot punch. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right?
got it here.
Like, I remember when the transition happened of like, oh, you should split step.
Tom, do you remember Brennan talking about split stepping in 2007? Brennan Bonet at Modus. So we're teaching. So no,
Oh.
2007 or 2008. He was there. Like it was. This is like Tyler and Alan were coming to classes. Brennan came to a couple of them, and Brennan and all of us were all working on our dive kongs and double kongs a lot. And Tyler had like sick double kongs. He had his cool double kong. Brennan gave us all this spiel. He's like, guys, we're all doing this punching thing. We're all punching. It's not right. And Brennan wouldn't take off like that. He took off properly, and all of us just shot him down. I remember just being like, Brennan, you're out of it.
Not how you do it.
And it's like, holy fuck, was Brennan ever ahead of his time on that? It's such an obvious thing. Of course you take off.
Well, I mean, he was a super smart dude. He's a physicist, right? He probably understood it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, no, it's not. This is not going to work.
Well,
shout out to Brennan if you ever listen to this for teaching me how to wall flip.
There you go. There's a lot of name dropping there.
For Brennan, for what, Tom?
For teaching me how to two-step wall flip.
Fuck yeah. I didn't know Brennan taught you two-step wall flips.
Yeah.
He was one of the first dudes I ever saw doing them off of trees and stuff.
Yeah, he was really good at them.
I think I already had them when I met him. Like I had them because we were doing them at flares and stuff. But I remember him doing them too and just being like pretty mind blown at how clean Brennan was and how confident he was. He was doing one-step wall flips before like anyone else I knew. That's another weird thing. People used to two-step wall flip before we did one-step wall flips.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore.
I think the one-step wall flips before were not like how they are now. It was like run, jump at the wall, slam into it, and flip.
Try to kill all your momentum. You just the way too much momentum. Kill it all, and then try not to hit into the wall with your head.
Oh man.
I do remember doing quite a lot of wall tricks, Tom, where my leg would collapse and then like you would hit the wall with your body.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, maybe I should run like so fast.
Just not the right way. Like you're taking the wrong approach, buddy.
Oh, you gotta go up the wall, not at the wall. Right.
Flipping doesn't take place on the wall. It takes place a foot or two. And you should keep everything a foot or two away from that damn wall. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned your system for grading in parkour.
Yeah.
You mentioned there was a problem and you graded it at the Forks. Tell everyone about what that's all about.
Me and Ben joke a lot that it's like, I mean, grading systems are kind of really hard to make, right? In rock climbing, I don't know if you guys know, but there's like 10 different systems and you can't really actually like convert them to each other because they're for different purposes and they're for different rock and different terrain and it's for achieving a different goal, right? Like, so if a system was developed for Scottish trad climbing in Scotland on this very specific type of climbing, and then you try to apply that grading system to like sandstone, like weird sandstone in Texas somewhere, that's completely different types of rock. It's a different sport even. It's not like long climbs. You're not needing to protect yourself. It's like, and then also there's ice climbing. There's like the world of like getting up mountains and having to grade like crevasse travel and things like that. Like it's just grading is ultra specific. Grading is inherently an ultra specific thing to grade something. And to understand those ultra specific grades, you need to be in that world, right? So say you spent your whole life using Yosemite decimal system, and then you go to the V scale, that might be a little weird for you. And if you're switching to font, that might be kind of weird for you. So I think a lot of people wouldn't really understand the Selby parkour grading system unless they learned parkour like under the Selby parkour system. So that's right. Me and Ben, going back to me and Ben, we kind of joke that like we understand the system so well, but like it could potentially be hard to teach to somebody else. But me and Ben, like you could show us any problem in the world and we would both have a synonymous grade for sure. Almost. We would both be able to agree what the grade is. Synonymous, is that the word? We'd both be able to agree what the grade is. And I think it's because the foundation of it comes from scaffolding. So you have to be able to draw a comparison from the problem to a problem that would be in our teaching system. So we actually use like system scaffolding and like the dimensions of system scaffolding
Right.
and all those factors to try and come up with our difficulty. So then in our system, there's 5 difficulty levels. Well, 6, but we don't really count the 6th level because it's actually just it's stupid. It's the 6th level is for anything that's beyond the 5th level.
Right.
So if it's too hard to be in the 5th level, then that's what the 6th is for. It's just like stupid skills. So sorry, that's kind of dumb right off the bat, but the 6th level.
That's just a wash already.
And then on top of the 6 levels, there's also a fear or danger rating. So like, I don't like to use fear rating. I like to call it danger rating. So it's more like practical.
Right.
But there's actually how bad are the consequences of failure on said problem. So a problem. So if you had a 20-foot gap between 2 benches on the ground with like sand in between them, and the benches are round concrete where there's no spot to shin yourself, no nothing. The difficulty could be in a 5 or 6 because it's a massive distance and it cannot get bigger difficulty wise, but the danger is so low. So we use movie ratings for the danger, which actually that comes from rock climbing. Rock climbers do that too. So they'll go PG, PG-13, or sorry, they'll go G, which is guidance. Then they'll go PG, then they'll go PG-13, and then they'll go R, and then they'll go X. That's the ratings. So guidance, parental guidance, PG-13, rated R, and then rated X. It's like porn. So
is that like death?
Yeah. So right. Yeah. So that maybe the 20-foot problem doesn't have a high danger rating or consequence, but it has a high skill or difficulty, right? But anyways, we can take that and we can apply it to anything. And the reason we did that is it helps for grading, for certification, for like actually being able to say this coach is this is their ability level, be able to actually quantify someone's ability level. And then also for the sake of competition and parkour competition, being able to quantify the difficulty of a said problem.
Right.
Right.
They're trying right now to go like, oh, this is a plyo problem, or this is a cat to pre problem, or this is whatever. But parkour is so complex that you never know what the takeoff is going to be, a vault or a lâché or this or that. You don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be a combination of 10 things. And then we got to be able to like come up with a grade for how difficult is this problem really. Climbing is really old and there's still a lot of arguments. It's not a clear thing. No one agrees on any grade of anything in the whole world of climbing. But they're always growing. They're always getting better at it. And again, I think the grading isn't for the muggles and for the general world. And it's probably not something that you'd even need to mention on a TV program. It's for us. It's for the people who are trying to understand what you're facing and why is it hard. Another thing that I really like about it, and that Ben talked about this with me a little bit, and a couple of the other boys have mentioned it too, is that sometimes a problem will scare you, but you don't objectively know why it's scaring you, like what actually bothers you about it. You can't really process and understand it. So when you grade every aspect of the problem and you go, oh no, that's only a brown PG whatever, and then this part, it goes into a lâché, that's like maybe like a black level. Sorry that I'm using colors now. The colors are the same as jiu-jitsu: white, blue, purple, brown, black, red. So it's 1 to 6. So anyways, if I say a problem is brown,
you said?
Well, sorry, I'm getting a little bit I'm a stoner. I'm all my thoughts are clustered. But anyways,
Me both, dude.
the point is I can come up with a really good synonymous grade with Ben, and he can go, oh yeah, like I was maybe worried about this. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. I was maybe worried about this, but then I looked at it from a practical standpoint, and it's like, no, the danger is not high, and it's the skill is actually lower than something I've already done. That's similar, right?
Right.
So it gives you that extra confidence to know, like, oh, actually, no, this is well within my skill level.
Right.
That would happen to me a lot without necessarily grading it, but like kids in the parkour room would spot a problem that I didn't see yet, and they go, Mark, can you do that? And I look at it really quick and I go, yeah. And they go, well, have you done it? And I go, no, but like I might as well have. Like yes, the answer is yes.
Right.
Because you know your own ability and you know and then they would be like, well, I'll prove it then. And then you just one bang it in front of them. And you show them like, yeah, no, like when that's the whole goal of this is to know what you can and can't do. The whole goal is to be able to not have to have any mystery or any question. Oh, I wonder if I'm going to break my legs. Like if you're wondering that, you shouldn't be doing it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I found that when I was at Jungle Jam. There was this cat leap, and Nino was there, and he kind of walked me through it. But one of the younger ones, was like, Christy, did you get that whatever problem? And I'm like, oh, that was a whatever problem? I'm like, oh, like that's pretty good, but I'm like, Leaf did it.
Yeah. Actually, you know what's funny that you mentioned Leaf there, because that was one issue with me and Ben is we are synonymous on agreeing with grades on everything, but then all of a sudden when you shrink a problem down to a little person, it is hard to compare. It's almost like they need their own grade system. But the reason you don't do that though, because like even in rock climbing, there's no little kids who climb V14 or 15 because they can't reach that far yet. But still they'll be climbing V8s and whatever, or they'll find one that caters more to their style that they're still able to do even though they're small, and they'll still do a really hard, like a hard V10 or something. And then the whole world knows, oh, if this kid grows another foot, they're going to be doing, like, we know really where they're at. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to like change the system and go, oh, leaf size, that's a black belt problem. Like, we're not going to do that. So yeah, for the young kids, it's going to be frustrating when it's like, but I'm only 4 feet, so I can only do these white and blue problems or whatever. But yeah, we talked a little bit about that and like how to combat that, how to make things like more fair for the sake of competition. Just not even fair, but just to make things make more sense.
Do you know what? I don't know about that, because like I didn't compare myself because like he's like what, 10? I wasn't like doing that. I was just like, that's kind of cool. Like, we're at the same kind of skill level at wherever age, and it's just kind of really neat. Like, had nothing to do with like how young he was or how old I am. It was just like, it was all about the camaraderie. Like he was like cheering for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what? It was really cool. So that, I don't know, like I like the system. I like that, like there's, cheering going on if someone gets, one of the challenges put aside. It's super neat. I don't know like if anyone else is going to apply it to whatever gym comes out, but it's pretty smart.
One of the great things about parkour too, right? Just that like people of any age can be doing the same, challenge level basically, right?
You know what I really like, Tom, is that sometimes I'll build an obstacle and they'll look at the black tape on the top or the red tape or whatever. That I'll put one red problem in a comp or something, or if I'm setting for a teachings in a gym or whatever, I'll set one really hard problem. And they'll look at it and go, they get all discouraged when they look at it because it's impossible and they want to walk away. And I'll go, no, look again. There's also blue tape and there's this tape. Just because the obstacle is super hard doesn't mean there's not another way to approach it or another problem set on that obstacle. Right. So like, yeah, sometimes it'll be like a wall that you're grabbing and a takeoff. And that if you take off here and you catch that wall, then it's going to be a 5 or whatever. But then I also put like another little angled, what do you guys call those? Quad step kind of thing. I'll put a quad step in between, and the kid can run and step off that and do almost the same problem, but it's half the size. And then, we'll still be able to give it a point value. I'm sure that went without saying. I don't know. But yeah, being able to fit different grades in between, like, yeah.
Sweet.
Another way to say that would be, Tom, the Odina is the same place it always was when we started and it is now, but not the same place. Like, I can bang like way harder problems, but it's the same place.
Yeah.
Hasn't changed.
Yeah, the place has really kept on giving.
It will. It'll keep giving. I've already got some plans for next season for Odina.
Yeah, it looks like we got an early start to our parkour season this year, actually.
That's awesome.
It's already nice out.
And this time of year in Winnipeg, the water comes really high, and then it creates all those water challenges like on the river edge.
Yeah.
There's a short window of like a month usually of every year in spring that you have like different water levels, and you need to watch the challenges because there's some where like especially the wheelchair ramps behind Odina, like toward the water.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That area is
ledge
really,
too.
yeah, and behind the ledge, that's really fun. But I just love those little water challenges. They're the greatest.
that little bit of fake danger, kind of.
Yeah, you gotta stick it.
We could actually do a tour or something where we go along every park in Winnipeg that's on the water, lakes and rivers and because me and Jesse, we went to that golf course last summer, and you saw that clip of us jumping to those wooden beams.
Yeah.
Like there's more challenges there, but they're really intimidating because the beams are rotting. So yeah, like solid looking beam, and like yeah, but I don't know. There could still be some lines there, but that's one park. That's one golf course.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
Winnipeg's got hundreds of fucking parks and golf courses and things with water features. If we go to these places, you could find some bangers.
Yeah.
Because it's funny in parkour how we're still like that after all these years where people are like, oh, IMAX in London or like Red River campus in Winnipeg. And it's like, it's just a spot. It's just some walls. It's just some walls. You know, like we need to find more of those. We can find Winnipeg's got its own IMAXs.
Oh yeah, we found that one last year at the Portage in Maine on the Bank of Montreal side, where Ryland did the,
That's an old school spot, but yeah.
Yeah.
it was pretty dope to see him. Oh wow, that was such a good time.
Yeah, that was a great spot.
Yeah,
I actually just commented that on when a Tyrion posted a video of that spot, and I said the spot that keeps giving because
Yeah,
it
oh nice.
it is that like and but you know what's funny? Tom and I learned that in Saskatoon when we moved there that it's not really about the spot. It's kind of more about how you treat the spot you do have, or like even just a picnic table can be kind of an amazing thing if you learn to utilize it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree
for
with
sure.
that.
We definitely for such a small city, you can get a lot done in Saskatoon.
Oh man, River Landing, or like they never post stuff at Innovation Place. Like I never see them post anything from Innovation, and like I just want to see crazy Jordan Westad there front flip over the entrance of Boffin's Club or something. Like I just want to see some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like Boffin's Club is fucking sweet. It's fucking sweete. Like this is coming from someone who's I've traveled to some cool places. I've been in Lisbon and Cowes, and I've been in like all these places. Boffin's Club is sweet.
Yeah.
Full of challenges and that need to be milked. Like full of challenges. Even those two walls, Tom, the wheelchair ramp there, like just the fact that I almost got the cat pass arm jump at Boffin's Club last time I was there, but I still haven't done it. I don't think anyone's done it. But like that cat pass arm jump has to happen, and that spot is like an IMAX of Saskatoon. It's its own.
Oh.
It's a famous spot, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that school in Saskatoon that we traversed.
Yeah.
The nipple duster.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go around the whole building.
As a traverse.
Yeah.
And then that wheelchair ramp, Tom, the cat pass arm jump and cat pass pre, and
that's actually a big one.
That's probably, I think it's the biggest cat pass pre I've done in my life.
Yeah, because
it's about the height of my chest almost. Like it's really high wall. You're really high, and then it's like 9 feet or something.
Yeah.
8 feet.
Yeah. Gotta be. I would probably 8. Yeah.
I remember when we first went there, I went, oh, one day I'm gonna do the cat pass arm jump, and then like I went back there with Ron on vacation and cat pre'd it. But that spot is sweet. Saskatoon's got some gems, man. Like even just University of Saskatchewan, like the different like on the edges of the buildings, they have all those weird little pits, like garden pits, where you can jump to the window ledges.
Yeah.
Like I like University of Saskatchewan. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, the whole reason we brought this up is because there's a place that you would never think, like Saskatoon, or fuck, I've never trained in Regina. You know how many times I've driven through Regina?
Yeah.
I guarantee you I'd have more fun training in Regina than I would at like the Forks, because I've seen the Forks
Fresh
a lot.
eyes.
Yeah.
Fresh eyes, exactly. The like I call it the home team disadvantage in parkour, where like you're training in your own place and it gets boring.
Yeah.
Sometimes going to shies, like you said, can really help you mix it up. So yeah, a goal of mine would be to take the boys like out to. I want to go to Pinawa and show them some stuff there, and also just discover new stuff. I want to go to Kenora, like Kenora, Tom, because of the nature of the Canadian Shield and how that land is, how it's all up and down. That town is crazy. It's full of really weird architecture that you just wouldn't find in other places. So it's like reminiscent of Spain or Portugal, where it's like a fucking hill, a hill with a wall on it, and the wall has to follow the contour of the hill.
Right.
Like we're not finding that in Winnipeg, you know, like so. Kenora, we need to do. I wouldn't even mind going to Thunder Bay or going like a little farther that way. Like little trips to like I said, Regina or even small towns. Today I was driving through, or yesterday I was driving through Shoal Lake.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, Shoal Lake, just some small little town. I'm like, I spotted like 10 problems that I could go bang. It's like,
yeah,
man, architecture's architecture everywhere.
I do the same thing coming home on my drive. I see all these like little towns off to the side. I'm like, oh, Garson. Oh, okay. So I drive in there. I'm like, this is like a pit. So there's like literally like all sorts of like nice raw material. And then like in the town I live in, there's like a glass factory ruins that have like really good, cement and stuff. So it's like, what? Like, this is like all around me. Do I have the time?
Yeah.
Do I? One day I'll have more time.
Mark them down.
What
happens is we forget about those places, or we have them. There's been spots where I've had it on my back burner for so long that you almost think you went there, and you're like, oh, is that? I don't think that place is very good, like or whatever. You know, like because you think you saw it, or maybe you did, but you just didn't give it a fair chance. You saw it once, you know. Like I said, we give the Odina a new chance like 3 times a week for the last 20 years or whatever. It's like, okay, the Odina's still got new stuff, which should really prove our point. Yeah. But it's like, can you imagine if you just gave that same opportunity, that same chance to other spots that you would normally walk past? Like,
no doubt.
Oh, some gems that we're missing, man. Beautiful gems.
That's true.
So I would agree with that. That sounds like a jam for me. Just going all to the ghost spots, the ghost jam.
Oh yeah. That's actually, you know what? Last season I wasn't going to as many jams, so I was actually kind of just like training everywhere I went. So like there was a lot of that stuff happening. Like when me and you went to Collins, for example, in Beausejour.
Oh, that was so cool.
Right?
Yeah, that was really fun.
We just went to like a little vegan restaurant, and then I'm like, oh look, little roof thing. Oh look, a tree, and like come up with 1 or 2 things, and it's like, that's fine. That's it's fun. There's a good experience. There's something to learn, something to try. It's like that's everywhere.
And that's just that one spot in Beausejour. Like you walk down that whole Park Ave, and there's so many gaps. There's so many rooftops. There's so many things like even I can do. Even you know what I mean? Like it's great. Like, do I want to do that? I need a team to do that. Like, do I need to wear the headlamp and all that thing at night? You know.
Headlamp with parkour. My first headlamp was for urban exploring, and now I use a headlamp like all the time with like hunting and my outdoor stuff and my parkour stuff. I wear a headlamp like every day pretty much. I don't have it in my car right now, but I normally would. But my first headlamp was for urban exploring.
That's awesome.
With Zeddy and Twizzy, like early Winnipeg parkour guys. I mean, to get a headlamp with a red mode so you could like go through buildings and not get caught. But yeah, we should totally have a headlamp parkour jam. Like bring back the old jams. Like we all wear black and go out with headlamps and just like
vintage jam.
I think stealth jams are a must.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best jams.
I know, man. Because it's something liberating about the fact that like all the muggles are asleep. They're all at bed. It's wizard time.
Nice. That's why we're here.
Time to do some magic.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like that. Yeah, more stealth jams for sure.
So I have a question. This actually, I think it comes from, Tyrion.
All right.
How do you think parkour will fit in your life as you get older? Like, do you think it'll always be a part of it, or?
Oh yeah. Like so I'm addicted. I don't know if like I don't want to have a life without parkour. I would not want to have that. That'd be awful. But
Do you
Even-
see yourself coaching more then? Like, say
Oh, yeah.
20, 30 years down the road?
Oh yeah, like I think I think our whole world's going through a lot of big changes right now, and like how we perceive careers and how we perceive jobs and how we think of work and how we think of everything.
Yeah.
And people obviously are now more open to the concept of having more careers in their lifetime. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I need to be open to a lot of different things. I have a lot of different skill sets. I'm not a specialist. If I was a mechanic and didn't know how to do fuck all else right now, maybe I would be scrambling to pursue mechanic work.
Right.
But I have a lot of skills. I do a lot of different things. So I think one of my jobs will always be a parkour consultant, specialist, something or other, route setter, judge. If they're having a big competition, they need people who know the sport the way I do. So I think I'm gonna
Some
have
color
that.
commentary.
Not really going anywhere. Is that I like there's no accreditation in the things I do. I was actually just laughing about that. That there's it's well, I guess there's in rock climbing a bit, but even then, it's so funny how like I'm not accredited for many things, but I think that I'm a very skilled person, a lot of abilities.
Kind of the problem with this being so new, right? Like, there's no there's no way of,
Well, that's what I was gonna say, Tom.
getting that, right? Like,
I think me and you, our history is our accreditation.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
right.
We were there. You can't undo,
yeah.
you can't undo it. So
Yeah.
like anyone who knows the sport and knows what we're doing, the accreditation comes from reputation and comes from our experience. So speaks for itself.
Do you think more formal, like type of, you get your piece of paper or whatever saying you can do this? Like, do you think that type of stuff should be developed more in the future, or should it stay
Of
more,
course,
more
I'm
free?
biased as hell when it comes to that stuff, because I personally feel as if bureaucracy and all that just always takes away from the purity of something and makes it worse. I always think that it always takes away and never contributes anything. Because the funny thing, I always laugh at all those things. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna come and contribute to our world because we're really missing the bureaucracy. Oh, thanks for bringing that to us. We really needed it. Like,
Yeah.
the thing is, we're not missing anything. We're not missing anything. So who's gonna come and tell us like? So anyways, I don't think that accreditations and things like that are necessary or good at all in any way actually in parkour, but that it'd be a pipe dream to say that we're not going to have them. It's just something that's going to happen.
So far, like, there are some things, but for the most part, right, like if someone says they're a coach, but then
you just kind of
they're not being a good coach, they're gonna fail, right? Like, it's not gonna last long.
Yeah. That's the thing. Well, every industry is like that, right? Is like, who's doing a good job of being as who's following the red tape as much as possible or whatever, or like following the rules or whatever, and then who's actually on the leading edge of the market.
Yeah.
So like Origins is on the leading edge of the market.
Yeah.
No fucking question.
Yeah.
Don't argue with it. No one should argue with it. Origins is on the leading edge. And I don't know, some guy who I've never heard his name, who's a level whatever, so-and-so certified parkour coach in Kamloops. Like, I don't, like, who are you, motherfucker? I don't know. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there is he's accredited, and then like, oh, Rez doesn't have his accreditation or whatever, or maybe he does, I don't know, but he's still Rez, so he doesn't have to say anything. He's got NAPC behind his name and everything he's done, so.
I think
the
athletes that have come through there, right? It'd be like someone questioning Ryan Ford.
Yeah. Your actual credibility is more important than your paper credibility or whatever. Yeah. And at the end of the day, yeah, you're right, Tom. No, it doesn't matter how many papers you show up with. If you the proof is in the pudding, or whatever. If some guy comes and like tries to shut down my gym and he's gonna show Winnipeg the new way to teach parkour, but then he can't do anything, that's not going to look very good. Or like,
my kung fu is better than your kung fu.
Yeah. That's what I like about those warrior kind of guys is the best kung fu guys would have kicked the shit out of the other one.
Right,
shut down the other schools with your superior kung fu.
Like, it's like perfect evolution. Perfect evolution. It's like, no, we're not shutting down other parkour people or something, but we're like, we can prove ourselves through our own ability and through what we're doing, what our students are doing. Yeah.
You know what? I think this is a good time for this question. Mark, who do you mentor? Who have you mentored? Because I know a lot of I know a lot of people, like, you've mentored a lot of people, and you know, you do get credit for that in case you don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, who was your inspirations when you were coming up?
So the people who taught me and like who I looked up to the most early on would have been Twizzy and Zen. Pretty big time, like Jean-Guy, Jolique. Those guys were like
all the shout outs today.
And then
doubt, right?
when those guys, I know, man, you can't really have a podcast with me without there being a lot of shout outs.
Good for you though. That's
name dropping.
Yeah, I love it.
But then I remember and then Kyle McCorster. So sorry. Who's the man? He started parkour the same day as me. Like, well, when I say started parkour, we both had our first Winnipeg Parkour jam, and he had been training for about a year, and I'd been training for about a year. So like we were both pretty good, and Kyle could do wall flips. I remember Kyle could do wall flips. It was the first wall flip I'd seen, and he did it in the Odina. But anyways, that was our first jam. We met each other, and he was a big inspiration to me.
Cool.
But then I remember like a few months into that, Jean-Guy and Kyle and Tavis and all those, they're all talking about Hawk.
Oh yeah.
They're all talking about this dude, Yuri Klassen, right? They're all talking about this dude in Winnipeg who's got hops like no one else. He basically makes David Bell look like a little girl. No one said that. I said it without saying it. And then I remember, I always tell this story because it's my favorite. I'm at the Forks and I'm on the top of the parkade, and this dude's up on the roof of MTYP. And if you guys know the spot, that's quite a lot higher than the roof of the parkade by like, it's about 15 feet up. I would say it's a fucking meaty drop.
Yeah.
And the dude runs and jumps off the roof of the MTYP, and he's flying through there, and he's got the air position and shit like Yamakaze style, where he's like his arms behind him and like real like old school parkour. And he does this perfect hits the ground and rolls. And when he stands up, his hands out, and he's like, "Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Hawk." I was like,
how did you not get
like a movie?
I was intimidating. I already heard shit about this guy, and then I fucking meet him in like this Spider-Man fashion.
Oh man.
And then I got to train at that guy, and he took me all over Winnipeg and showed me spots he'd been messing around in, and started training with him, and that was really awesome. I'm trying to think of other like names of other people that him and I and Kyle trained with back then, but it was just there's a lot of different guys out there back then.
Yeah, there's like Arc.
Brian.
Brian
right.
and Tyler,
yeah.
Those were all the kind of the OGs of
a lot of people.
Like the people who started Winnipeg Parkour.
That's right.
I like all the code names.
Yeah, it's all the forum names, right?
Yeah,
back in forums.
Back then, you would sign up and you had a PK name. So you'll hear me say Jean-Guy or Tavis or whatever because I learned their actual names years down the road.
Yeah, for real. That's what you call it. Like, just be like, it's Zeddy.
Tom was Achilles, and I was Selbs.
I never went by that name in real life, though.
No, Tom was never. He's like, what should I sign up as? Cool Greek mythology.
Yeah.
I think Greek. Achilles Greek.
Luckily, that name was not foreshadowing any injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Achilles.
Yeah, injuries suck.
No, those were some good. Wow, to see Hawk do that and just like stick out his hand to shake it, like it's just that's how I saw. So what you saw there, what was happening to you there, is like when I saw you in the gym when you came back.
Aw.
So that's how wide-eyed my eyes were. So I
think I got to do that for a lot of people because you know what? For me, I can't even tell you how important that was for me for these superheroes to exist in my world, like for them to be real. That was really important for me. Like, and I don't know, to have been that for a lot of other kids and students. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
I think it was when you guys were talking to Tyrion about like my personality with teaching and stuff. It's kind of funny. Like, I do really like working with like the younger kids, like when they're like that age where they're like they're not damaged yet. They're
Right.
not trying to, the world hasn't told them that they have to start finding their career and all this shit yet.
Oh yeah,
So
right.
they're still into superheroes and comic books and whatever. So like the world's whatever, you know, the world's whatever they want it to be, and they can make it up and they can create this. And yeah, that's fucking exciting, isn't it?
They're all just waiting for that letter to Hogwarts, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That moment of, you're a wizard.
You're in.
Oh.
Is that what we have to do?
A
Gotta
letter.
put like a letter to all the kids in Winnipeg.
Can you imagine it, like if you watch like envelopes, and then if there's like you're at the Forks and like some parents are there with their kid and they're mucking around, we all talk amongst each other and we're like, bring them the envelope, bring them the envelope. Train an animal to bring them the envelope, like an owl.
Yeah.
That's more appropriate.
Something like that, like maybe
Kind of
like Phoenix.
Taps on your shoulder. Now we're talking.
Really get really literal with the muggles.
On like a really fake accent.
Yeah, right. We all got auto-tune.
You're a wizard, Harry. Did you ever wonder where your dad learned it all? Learned what? Cat houses and Kong vaults.
Dash.
I said cat, I said Kong. And monkey.
What are some of your projects coming up, Mark? Besides Jungle Jam, because you already touched base on that.
Yeah, we got Jungle Jam coming up. Like I said, I'm into a lot besides just parkour. I do rock climbing and snowboarding, and I really I'm very excited about skateboarding this season.
Really?
I know that sounds really awesome, but like I might put out a part. Like I might go really heavy.
What?
Yeah, because I
Cool.
don't know. I like skateboarding. I like a lot of stuff. I might fight someone. Like I might train and fight someone, but that'll all happen within like 10 years probably.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of goals going on. We want to have martial arts and rock climbing, and all kinds of things. Like, hey, so long-term goals, short-term goals. That's like two different conversations.
Yeah.
In general, no, you kind of covered some bases there. Like you didn't get really into it because that's how it is, but it's kind of nice to know that you still have like things put off to the side, little projects.
Oh fuck yeah! There's a lot of stuff on the back burner, like entire instruments, genres of music that I want to get into. There's all kinds of stuff on the back burner.
Love it.
But yeah, like I think for spring, my main focus is well, Jungle Jam is really important. That's our top priority there. We're doing some like landscaping kind of stuff on the Selby land, because we're putting in some infrastructure for next winter for the snowboard park and ski park. So that way there's like rails and things like that, and like we're doing banks, and like you've probably seen like videos of trails in the mountains where they have like wooden features that they build, like banks where you go around a corner and it's like angled pieces of wood and whatever. We're building all kinds of stuff like that. So that way when the snow hits, you can just kind of go rip. And then also it seconds as a mountain bike course. So in the summer we can do stuff and all that. Another thing I really want to do is I want to get rubber mat rolls and like roll them over my trails so you can actually skateboard through the trails, like on a regular skateboard. Like,
cool.
Yeah, so like I don't know, we've got a lot of weird plans. My dad wants to do a shooting range, so that's something we're gonna. Like,
Maybe we'll have like some archery too or something.
Yeah, like I'm a big archery guy, so like I have an archery set up there right now where we have a hill, and then I've got my meter markers, so you can like Nino and me like to do archery there, and I do a bit of hunting with my bow, so I'll like get all sighted in and shit. So yeah, it's nice having all that. I know Steve, like our Uncle Steve, and our dad really wants to have that shooting range. They'll have like pistols and restricted weapons, so they can do all that. That'll be cool. But yeah, like Action Sports Park. I want to have a mega ramp there eventually. I want to like the best mega ramp. Oh yeah, I want to have all that stuff. I want to have huge climbing walls over the pond. Like we're gonna build a pond and have a massive like deep water solo climb, so you can just like climb like 100 feet and fall into the water.
So do
Uh,
it.
We're talking about zip lines on the land. We're talking about doing a high line. Just like kind of everything you can think of. So like for long-term goals, like it's like action sports. A huge guy, like a guy I'm a huge fan of is Donald Cerrone, like UFC fighter, and all of his UFC winnings. He's had more UFC fights than anyone in history. Lots of people don't know that. Cowboy, everyone knows him as Cowboy.
Oh,
The guy's
cowboy. Yeah.
so he puts all of his money into his own little ranch where he has mountain biking and rock climbing and all this fun shit. And he brings
That's
guys
sick.
out to fight camps where he's like, "Hey, you're in fight camp. I'm teaching you. We're going to do jiu-jitsu. We're going to do all our whatever." But then he also like takes them out to do hunting and cool shit. And like, I guess like my long-term goal would be to set something like that up for myself, my own on a land, where people show up and it's like there's race tracks and like, here, hop in the car, let's go. Have you ever gone 100 kilometers an hour sideways? Come try. Like, I want to show people like all the cool shit and have a cool place for myself to stay active and keep having fun. So that's my long-term goals. Yeah.
Sweet. We are pretty much even with the other interruptions around the 2-hour mark.
Oh my goodness.
So are you guys good? We're gonna wrap this up with like a couple top fives and then
Talk more.
hey? Okay, so we'll go with the top 5 here for your top favorite training spots. That could be, I guess, parkour or climbing. Like your favorite places to train.
I've been waiting for this all day, this question.
But okay, so micro, macro, what are we talking here? Because like Odina is like in the Forks.
Shit.
Or like Jones Road is a place within northwestern Ontario. So okay, this is how we'll go we'll go big first.
Okay.
Macro.
Too small, yeah.
Favorite place in the world for leisure? Lisbon, Portugal. Like if I were to go do rock climbing, bouldering, parkour, all that stuff, and be kind of half buzzed the whole time, it'd be Lisbon, Portugal.
Love it.
I'm just being honest. Favorite place for like parkour, like real parkour. Everyone would probably be like, Mark, as if you're not picking Madrid, because Madrid's amazing, and I'll give you that. If you want to walk to a spot and then walk around the corner and hit a better spot, and then walk around the corner and hit a better spot, go to Madrid.
Really?
But Cambridge, man, Cambridge hits different. Cambridge is my shit, always will be my shit. Like, and so that's macro, and micro, I would say, is Bus Tree within Cambridge. Like Bus Tree is my place. I think like it's a tree. No one made it. Nature grew it the way nature wanted to.
Crazy
and it's
tree.
Challenges, and it's like the craziest tree ever. It's a Xerxes tree. It's probably
you and
like,
Nino in it.
it's really old. Yeah, I love that tree. So yeah, I'd say like Cambridge in general for parkour, but yeah. So that was the first question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it 5 or 3?
Whatever. If you can come up with 5.
Okay. And then so that's that. So wait, what did I start with here?
Is it Lisbon?
Yeah.
I said Lisbon for leisure, Cambridge for parkour.
Yeah.
And I haven't rock climbed all over the world. So if Sam Armstrong's listening to this, another shout out. If Sam's listening to this, he would have a way better idea of where the better climbing places in the world are. So like I really want to go check out what do they call it again? Tonsai in Thailand. I know you've been there, right, Christy? Didn't you go to Tonsai?
One time.
I would like to go climb in Tonsai.
I'm just fucking with you. I've never been. No.
Say it again. I missed it.
I've never been. I was just fucking with you.
Oh.
No, I never been. No, I've never been anywhere extreme rock climbing. Just
Tonsai for some reason. But anyways,
wish it was me.
So yeah, like I'd like to go to Tonsai, but for rock climbing, like I'm biased, like extremely biased, but I'm from the Canadian Shield, Northwestern Ontario. That's where I develop. I've put like over 150, 200 first ascents up, like on boulders and sport and trad. And I fucking love it. I'm super biased. I love the place. It's okay. El Capitan in Yosemite Valley is 25 million years old. And Half Dome is also in Yosemite Valley. That rock is 50 million years old.
And like any rock climb I've put up is like 4.6 billion years old.
That's awesome.
So my rock is the oldest rock on planet Earth. Like it's ancient mountains that have been ripped apart by glaciers and like the most insane geology ever going on. Some really weird shit. Like I could show you some weird shit.
Oh, you don't have to show me. I know about all that spooky places. Like
And
the
like,
Canadian Shield is just a freak show.
just so yeah, like people, I always laugh because I watch these American climbing documentaries and they'll be like, yeah, you know, we've pretty much climbed everything that's climbable in this area. And like the only time you don't hear them say that is when they're talking about like Utah or something, because they'll be like, yeah, it's so expansive, there's no, like, it would take you a billion lifetimes, you could never climb it all. So like that's when they're kind of honest with themselves.
Yeah.
The sheer magnitude of the rock climbing out there and what could be done. If those guys started picking away at Northwest Ontario, they would quickly realize it's the biggest, most impossible task ever.
Yeah. It's so much land.
Ridiculous. It goes forever. They're all that perfect like level of climbing that like most climbers really like what we do because we have splitters the way you would have in sandstone in Utah. So like our cliffs split open really nicely for these really nice hand cracks, which you'll find in like Yosemite and stuff too. And then there's Joshua Tree on actual granite. But ours are very weird. We have like weird granite places. Like we have a spot called Crack City where it's all just these different sizes of cracks that opened up and you get to just practice on them.
Really?
And but it's the height of our climbs too. They're all like approximately single pitch. So like that's like a rope length. But we have like highball spots. I know this is a parkour podcast. You guys don't really know the terminology, but we have everything you could ever want in the world of climbing in one little area. And if your thing is the way I am, first ascents, you like to venture the paths that are lead your own trail, come up with your own stuff, be original. That's where you want to do it. Because you can walk around the corner and look at a rock and it's human eyes haven't seen it in 1,000 years. And it's like good luck finding that in other places, like I hike into the bush sometimes where me and my buddy are hiking for such a long time that we're like, people aren't here ever. Like there's no way people have been here. Like there's no reason people have been here. And then you'll like hike up a rock and you'll like grab a piece of rock and pull it and 2,000 pounds of rock will slide down the cliff. And you go, yeah, no one's been here.
Yeah,
and like
followed by aluminum can.
Yeah.
A beer bottle, just
like beer cans and glass and stuff you'll find in like weird places. A beer cap, like a bottle cap.
So
but no, once you get to places where you're not finding that stuff, that's when you know.
I'm kidding around. I totally
know. No, it was a joke, but you're actually right. You do find shit like that. It's pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty
I've
bad.
had some experience. Not in the Shield though, but I've had some experience.
So, how about like you have somewhat decent internet at times, right? So I don't know if you watch a lot of Instagram or not, but do you have like favorite athletes right now that you like to watch?
I'm always like biased, right? I'm a very biased person because I like watching my stuff. Like I like watching Pickles a lot.
Yes. Thanks for
homie.
bringing him out here. Like, what a good
like
experience.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, and he's coming back too.
Good. I tell him to.
Sweet.
I tell him all the time to come back.
Fuck yeah. Just like I think Ben's my favorite parkour athlete in the world. I'd say Pickles is my favorite freerunner in the world.
He's so good. He's so tall.
And I do in 2 categories. I think it'd be a real bad day if you had to escape from Ben, or if like you had to if Ben's trapped in a prison and has to get out over a big wall, or like people don't realize Ben can climb buildering problems with crimps. Hard shit I do.
Yeah.
I see it.
Ben is a freak. Anyways.
Yeah.
Ben's freaky, and he's only going to get better. He's like half as good as he's going to be. You guys have no idea. But yeah, Pickles is my favorite freerunner. Obviously there's this freaky guys that everyone likes to watch. I like to watch George McGowan.
Yeah.
trains with Pickles, and I
Yeah.
think Pickles taught George actually. I'm pretty sure. I think so. I think Pickles was like a younger guy in the community kind of thing.
Yeah.
George is pretty young, so
Yeah. And then I really like Verity and just
Yeah.
these mad super strong people. It's so ridiculous to watch, obviously. You know how earlier I was talking about how there's people who are like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, and that's how they get their style. And then Ben's 10 out of 10. People like Verity are like 11 out of 10, but with
Right.
like one thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I of course I like watching Dom. I think Dom is the
yeah.
hucking, the world of hucking. But you know what?
But not even hucking.
No, Tom, hucking, but he's good at it. And it's still hucking.
I
It's huck.
guess.
But Tom, everyone has to huck. He's just
Yeah.
better at it. You know that whole imagining something before you do it and then actually then committing to it.
Yeah.
He's just better
Yeah.
than we are. He just can do it 50 times while we're once or twice. He'll do it 50 times. He's
I'd
really
like-
good at that.
Yeah.
I'd like to get some of his hucking all over me.
We all need to huck. Hucking all over us.
That'd be so much better.
And the thing is, it's a decision, and he would tell you the same thing, that it's a decision at the end of the day, and
Yes.
it's a skill and it's a decision. But once
Right.
he makes that decision and he commits to something, oh man, I love Dom. So I think Dom's a mental superpower. Who do I like? I really like. I'm gonna give a lesser known shout out here. I'm gonna say Bobby Gordon. Is that his name? Tom? Old school London.
Oh, yeah.
Older.
Yeah. Wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah, he trains a lot with Alex Potts and like those guys. They've been posting a lot of like ascent shit in London. He trains with Kai Willis and stuff. But anyways, I like Bobby Gordon. So I think he's a super sick athlete, and like he reminds me of myself, where he's not like at that stage in his parkour career where like you're probably going to see him post a video of him backflipping on a snowboard. Like he's not out of parkour, but he's like
Right.
kind of like seeing what a parkour guy can do afterward. That's what I like watching Bobby, because you could bring him to a parkour jam with the young lads, and he'd be putting a lot of them to shame. He's really good. Alex Potts.
Yeah.
Lots of guys. I like Alex Potts because he took that whole like buildering and rock climbing world on at the same time I did, and again, a parkour perspective. So I got to all the posts he makes are really cool because they're parkour and they're legit parkour.
Sweet. All right, last one here. We'll go into the top 5 videos that have impacted you.
I'm just gonna rattle them off quick, just so you guys
just bang them out.
Okay, Professor Long here, Big Chief.
Yeah.
Like will always be number 1 for me. It's a
classic.
Yeah.
The most classic, probably.
I would say. Barefoot Foolish Blaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think the young guys need to watch that and stuff. Let's see. You Are Your Own War.
Is that a
GUP?
GUP one? Yeah.
Galician Urban Project. You Are Your Own War. I think that's like probably the greatest.
That is a good one. That was a very good one.
The soundtrack and just the feel of it, the vibe is like, it's so Batman. It's so fucking epic.
Can't wait. Can't wait to watch it.
Oh man, there's so many good ones.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal this one from Scott. This is Scott Bass's favorite parkour video of all time. You guys know Bait?
Oh yeah.
He had a video years ago where he's in a blindfold throughout the whole video, or like they try to artistically make it like that. And he's in a factory and he's doing all these crazy things, and then it's like a kind of a comic relief because right at the end he takes the blindfold off and then he trips and falls. But there's like a scene in it. It's so search on YouTube BAITYK Bait YK, and then the video is called Wide WIDE Wide. And anyways, that's for sure. So that's number 4 for me, I guess.
Yeah.
And then let's see, number 5. I'm gonna pop up into the modern day now because I gave you guys stuff to watch.
Yeah.
But anything store water challenges.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Store is posting these really like realistic
Super cool.
jam vibey videos where it's like
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like when you're with the boys, like
Yeah.
trying to figure some shit out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I really like that the water challenges. Yeah.
Sweet. Then we'll go. I mean, unless Christy, do you have anything else? Any other questions on?
Yeah, this might be yours, but I'm gonna steal it away from you.
Okay.
If it is or not. What type of sage advice do you have for the muggles?
Yeah. That's what I was gonna get into.
I want to say it this time. You sounded so good last time saying.
Piece of advice.
Okay, cool.
Advice number 1: record everything.
Good one.
Record, and film lots. Because one day, especially when you don't ever say to yourself, oh, this trick's pretty good, but I'm not going to record it because I'll get it on video once I've got it better. It might not happen. Get it on video.
That's true. I did that for about 10 years and don't have any video, so.
Yeah. You know, sad it makes me that there's no videos of me doing a flare, like a gymnastics flare. And I could do I could only do like 2 or 3, but I could do a flare. And now I'm like, I can't do a flare.
Oh.
Yeah.
I could maybe get it back if I worked for a really long time on it, but that's the point, is film what you've been working on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's point 1. Number 2, this one's more for the muggles. I think that one's more for the wizards. This one's more for the muggles. If you think that we're special, or you think that parkour athletes have some advantage you don't have, that's wrong. It's a myth. Get it out of your head right now.
Cool.
If you want to start getting to the point where you can process fear and deal with things the way we do, you have to start putting yourself in that and treating that as a skill. Fear, dealing with fear is a skill. It's a skill, and it's in all kinds of different sports in different ways. But in parkour, it's just more obvious because you're probably going to fuck yourself up if you make a mistake. So that's where parkour athletes, you know, you get this level of mystery. Like, how could he possibly have gotten that? But it's like slow implementation of fear.
Yeah.
Add fear every time you do something. Every time you go out to train, what are you training really? Are you training your plyometrics? Like, no, like, I mean, sure, but that's a long-term thing. Like, just from jumping, your plows are going to improve. Go out and train your brain, man, because you don't have a lot of time on this earth, and you don't have a lot of time to teach yourself how to process fears. So start working on that. And it's the most obvious one, because if you took someone like Daniel Ibaka and you put his brain in anyone's body, that person's going to be an impressive motherfucker, because it's his brain special.
Yeah. It's the
and
mentality.
every one of you has that ability to make your brain special. So yeah, just every time you train, go outside of your comfort zone. That's my sage advice: is go outside of your comfort zone and film everything. And combine those 2 ideas. Film yourself going outside of your comfort zone. Anyways.
You know, when you said the comfort zone part, I got goosebumps all over my body, because that's exactly what it is.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah. Well, we're inherently creatures that search for comfort, right? So
yeah. So break that. make fear and being scared your comfort, so when it does come, you're like, this whole thing. I deal with this every day.
I do like to every now and then, like sometimes I'll be about to walk away from a problem because I'm like, no, I'll just deal with it. I'll do it another time. It's kind of scaring me, and I think I might injure myself. And then I'll like walk back before I have any time to process it and be like, no, never mind, I tricked myself. And I'll like go and I'll do it. Like I'll like quickly do it before I, it's so stupid.
No,
but
that's where it is.
Things to yourself, because you're like, no, I'm not, like, and then I'll immediately after go, oh yeah, glad I didn't walk away from that one. That would have really built up on me, every time you overcome a fear, it's really going to add up on you.
That's so good. It feels so good.
Like for Ben, that shit's spiraling out of control now.
Yeah.
Like you can get lost in that. You can eventually, like, you can become like, oh my God, it takes so much to, like, really activate that. And,
Right.
So when they talk about Ben and Jesse, they talk about going out to a jam and really like pushing themselves, and Tyrion's like, good God, I can't keep up with these loonies. It's because they're addicted to that feeling.
They are.
Right.
It is a very addicting feeling, especially when something seemed impossible and then you made it your little bitch. But it's like easy. Easy.
When you see
Me and
those
Tyrell
two
both probably
together.
tell you that clip of us doing the level 5 problem before Jungle Jam.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. Once I did it, it was easy. Isn't that a weird thing to think of, Tom?
Yeah,
I can go right now. I could go one bang it right now. It's because it's easy in my head now and allows me to, so stupid. Parkour is so stupid.
Well, that's a good note to end this on. Parkour is so stupid.
Just do it.
But everyone, thanks for listening. We will wrap it up. We'll definitely have to have you on again, Mark. There's so much more to cover, honestly.
It was just surface.
Yeah, like
To come back and contradict myself on everything and just be like,
Yeah.
no, don't do things where you're going to hurt yourself and just never get injured. Just maintain that strength training rehab program.
Yeah, right. Hey.
All right,
So I wasn't going to come and
so,
advocate for all that stuff. There's enough people advocating for health. I've got to advocate for insanity. Someone's got to do it.
all right, guys. So yeah, thanks for listening or watching, and share this. That'll help spread this around. Like it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Go follow Mark. What's your Instagram?
It's
Dirtbag
Dirtbag Tracer.
A dirtbag climber who lives in his van and dedicates all of his effort and time into the pursuit of climbing. And a traceur is someone who dedicates all their time into training parkour. So dirtbag tracer just basically means that my whole existence is dedicated into being a traceur. Yeah, dirtbag tracer. Probably going to change that within like a week or two.
And Selby Parkour.
New me. Yeah, Selby Parkour, Buildering Winnipeg. We got all kinds of stuff going on. But yeah, Buildering Winnipeg is where you're going to find us climbing buildings and bridges and climbing structures and architecture in Winnipeg.
Oh.
Dirtbag Tracer is my main account, so that's where you're going to see whatever it is I'm up to. Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
just want to thank you so much for being a part of this and really being a part of why I'm here too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And to your whole family, obviously too, because I would be watching Mark, but on my peripheral vision, I'd be watching Tom. I'm like, who's that guy? That guy's brother. Like it's just nuts.
Goes, who's this animal?
Well, yeah, and then now I'm like sharing my life with you, both of you. It's really fun for me to be a part of it. So thank you both. And yes, we will have you back again.
Awesome. Fuck yeah.
All right.
Thanks for
I really appreciate your time and finding the space to do this with us.
Fuck yeah. Cheers,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks, Mark.
Love you lots. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Wow.